Please listen carefully.
Welcome back to Podchassis, a podcast where we talk about, anything, because it's a vehicle for whatever we want to talk about.
He's Noah.
And he's Lorenzo.
Mm-hmm. That's me.
This is our third attempt at this intro.
Mm-hmm.
The last two went awful. We have spent, I think, the last 12 minutes doing all sorts of terrible, terrible jokes.
I had a great time.
I'm sure you did, but as the sole editor of this podcast, I have to deal with whatever audio you generate.
You do.
So, if you wanted to know what you're missing, here's a supercut of the bits that I thought were worth keeping. You'll notice it's probably less than 2 minutes. Welcome to Podchassis.
Welcome to Podchassis. Welcome back to Podchassis.
Oh, yeah.
Episode 4. You've been here before, presumably.
If you haven't been, we have 3 more of them, at least. We didn't finish the intro. The intro has a catchphrase.
What catchphrase is that?
Welcome back to Podchassis, a vehicle for us to talk about whatever we want.
Welcome back to Podchassis.
I don't know, man.
It's all about post-intro intros in the modern age.
It's like post-irony.
It's post-irony, but it's post-intro. And we are very knowledgeable on film terms such as en medias res. So we start you off right in the middle of the story.
You know, you get a little bit of the story, and then you get the title sequence.
Then we go backwards.
It's like a movie, right?
Yeah, exactly.
So
neither of the films we watched today follow that structure.
No.
It's always been weird to me that the word sequel it just refers to any film after the first one. You know, like there's triquel isn't a thing. Return of the Jedi is a sequel to A New Hope. You know, that's how that term is used. But in this one, we're specifically talking about the first sequel.
A sequel is a movie that came...
Sequential. I guess sequel is short for sequential, right?
Yeah,
so,
it comes sequentially afterwards.
So would Return of the Jedi be the sequel to Revenge of the Sith, but not? It's a sequel to both.
I don't know the names of the Star Wars movies.
Oh, okay. Well, let's go get the Cars. So Cars 3 is a sequel to Cars 1.
Yes.
Okay, that's what I'm saying. A New Hope is 4.
Unless Cars 3 takes place at some point before Cars 1.
A New Hope is 4, Return of the Jedi is 6.
So Cars 4, let's say, if it was sequentially before Cars 1, it would be a prequel before all of them.
Yes.
And if Cars 4 was instead in between 2 and 3, that would make it an in-between.
Well, and the Borderlands pre-sequel.
Pre-sequel isn't really what you call that. That's the joke name they came up with.
It's
an in-betweequel.
It's the best part of that game.
It's the squeakquel.
Oh gosh, you know Amy Poehler plays one of the I know that Amy Poehler plays one of the Chipettes. Those are the
Oh, is that what the girl chipmunks?
Yeah, they're called the Chipettes. And Amy Poehler, I think, plays the overweight Chipette. Amy Poehler is the guy who plays Batman in the Lego movies, ex-wife. Yeah, great guy. I don't know because I haven't read her book about the divorce, but maybe I should.
Yeah. Do you know what else makes me think about divorce?
What makes you think about divorce? You need to respect the audience's intelligence, man.
I will not! They're listening to our podcast! That means they have bad taste!
I'm here for a democratic podcast, and you obviously are. You are going full,
I'm the autocrat here, alright? Plutocracy!
The first thing that came to my mind was valedictorian.
Yeah,
Dictator
sure. I'm the valedictorian.
Dictator is in there.
No, it isn't. Dictate is in there.
Dictate, I guess, is...
Because valedictorians tell people things, and that's what dictation is.
So dictator dictates things.
This episode is a nightmare. We have never said 3 sentences about either of the movies we're going to talk about. Do you want a mulligan?
No, we're going. There's no stopping this car.
Yes, there is.
I have pressed the nitrous button.
We can go back in time.
Forward.
I can cut all of this out.
You are cutting none of this out, and I'm gonna make it.
That's not your choice.
I'm
gonna cut to this point. You can't stop me.
Do not. The rambling is important because that's who I am.
I know. I'm the one who told you that.
Every 5 minutes, I'm going to reference this beginning, so you cannot cut it out.
Hey, audience. You know what's a fun bit? Us referencing something you never got to hear. I'm cutting it.
You guys remember when I talked about what dictator means? And how I thought valedictorian was the opposite of democracy? My fellow valedictorians out there, you know what's up?
My fellow Valorant players.
My fellow Valorant players. Now you can't keep it out because that's funny and that's good content.
I told you I was going to cut to like 2 minutes ago.
Do not.
I'm gonna.
Do not.
I'm gonna.
Do not. This is funny. This is good content.
Hey, this is what that's what the Patreon's for.
That's what the No.
Yeah.
There's no Patreon for this.
If you pay $0, you get access to the unedited audio.
Our audience
so you can have a worse experience.
Our audience pays their well-earned $0 that they got at the chemical plant to hear me raw and unfiltered. At the Jobs Factory. Yeah. To hear me raw and unfiltered.
Just for you.
Okay.
30 minutes of ums, ahs, and silence, alongside his joke about the valedictorian thing.
I need the Snyder cut.
I'm going to cut all of this.
Give me the Snyder cut.
I'm gonna save the intro again, and we're gonna start over. This is trash.
I'm gonna call you the guy who made the other version of the Justice League. What is his name?
I'm gonna call you that guy.
Wait. Joss Whedon. It's you. You're Josh Wheaton.
I'm gonna start cursing.
But moving on. Noah, tell me about. No, I'm gonna talk about it. You're talking about Chris too. Kill you. Well, hunk is
a relative term.
Yeah, he's pretty vanilla, and you know who else is pretty vanilla is Ludacris, the rapper Ludacris, which you may remember from I think Justin Bieber's Baby.
I have no idea. Why are you looking at me like I'm gonna know?
Okay, I'm gonna look that up real quick. You can cut this out.
This.
Where is Ludacris? Who sung Baby by Justin Bieber? Yeah, it's Ludacris. I was right. Yeah, Justin Bieber and Ludacris. Yeah, they're the composers.
I'm going to cut you together saying
You're wrong, and there's nothing you can do about it.
I'm gonna cut together your words until it sounds like you're saying something racist.
No, don't.
That'd be funny.
No, that would not be funny.
I'm gonna base.
You know what is funny is this. This is funny right now. So
yeah, no, it was Ludacris.
Yeah, Justin Bieber and Ludacris. Yeah, so you're welcome. Recording in 3, 2, 1. But just kidding. We were recording this whole time. That's how you heard me say those numbers. Welcome to Podchassis, a vehicle for us to talk about whatever we want to talk about. I'm your host, Lorenzo.
I can't cut out the numbers now because
you
referenced them.
That's funny.
Okay, well this is take 2, everybody, of our intro, and we've messed it up already.
I'm just too funny.
I
don't mean to brag.
Not say anything more about it. We're gonna move on because that audio was unworkable, and I am the editor of this podcast. I know, shocker. So. This new information that has been provided to the viewers, listeners. No, you can view it now. You have a YouTube channel.
Yes,
it's Podchassis.
Podchassis, welcome.
Go to YouTube, search Podchassis in quotes because
on the YouTubes.
Pod and chassis are both very common terms.
Wherever you find.
Otherwise, you'll find something about cars. Yeah, and that's wrong.
No,
this is space. Podchassis.
There's no space between pod and chassis.
And Podchassis is a podcast.
Yeah.
Speaking of, we're a podcast about movies. The first one,
except for the first episode, because that was about games too.
You know, yeah.
I might want to talk about games in the future.
Yeah, no, this isn't
leave that open.
Yeah, no, I'm wrong.
You're wrong.
This isn't a podcast about
You're
movies.
wrong. I'm cutting this out.
Okay. It's about literally anything.
Literally anything, but mostly movies, because I know lots about movies.
And they're also easily digestible and easy to regurgitate.
They're also mostly about bad movies, because I like pain.
I mean, we could also do other things that are easily digestible and regurgitatable, like sodas or something.
I can't stop hurting myself.
Right. Hello?
What? Hi.
What? I'm sorry, I tuned you out. What are you talking about?
No.
Are you determined to give us a take 3?
No. Okay, we're good.
We're doing a take 3.
No, that was funny.
And we're back. Do you see now what I'm talking about? What I have to deal with on a daily basis.
I don't see what you're talking about. Yeah. I'm a plague upon this world.
But sure, I'll keep that one. That was good.
Yeah, I made it in the cut.
So, this podcast.
Speaking of making it in the cut.
Oh, let's. Why would you hit the table? Yeah, speaking of making the cut, cutting things, editing.
Yes, editing.
You know what movie didn't do a good job editing itself?
What?
Too Fast, Too Furious!
Oh, really? You don't like the editing in Oscar-nominated Too Fast, Too Furious, starring Ludacris and Paul Walker?
There is no universe it was Oscar-nominated.
I think Hobbs and Shaw was nominated for special effects.
This isn't Hobbs and Shaw.
So I think that we can say that Too Fast, Too Furious is a major motion picture in the Oscar-nominated series, The Fast and the Furious.
Yes. It is not an Oscar-nominated movie. And we're going to talk about why.
But it's in the series. And it's a part of it. So it's up there in the prestige, the Academy. They said, yes, we want you in our line of cinema. And you know what? I have to agree.
Okay. So, you wanted to talk about Too Fast, Too Furious? I think
the
most.
I'll talk about Too Fast, Too Furious. Too Fast, Too Furious.
I have a lot of opinions on it.
You have a lot of opinions. Oh, goodness. Well, we'll just have to get to them in time, won't we?
I wish that I could communicate through audio the look I was giving my co-host. But unfortunately, this is not a video medium.
No.
And even if it was a video medium, which, fun fact, we have a YouTube channel now.
We do.
That's just a visualizer for more audio. Sorry. Podcasts aren't anything but an audio medium. Except for when they're not. And those aren't real podcasts. Fight me.
We are the real podcast. We're down to earth.
So what did you think about this movie? Give me a quick good, bad.
I'm gonna run through my description of the film real quick. So Too Fast, Too Furious. The first film, The Fast and the Furious, is main character Paul Walker. I think both films take place in Miami?
No, the first movie takes place in like LA.
Okay. So the first one is Paul Walker in Los Angeles, and his job is to infiltrate this crime ring and provide information to the FBI. And by the end of the movie, he gets a big old crush on Vin Diesel. And
who's a big crime boy.
Big crime boy. Big muscles. Big man.
Big
man.
Boiled.
Big boiled man.
Boiled? Yeah, like
you said boiled. I thought you said
oiled.
Oiled? Oh, okay. I thought you said boiled. That would have made
more sense.
Okay, but big boiled man, Vin Diesel. He grows to love Vin Diesel, and through their love, he decides to let Vin Diesel go. And the second film, this is an interesting sequel. I jokingly during our viewing described it as an anthology because Paul Walker is besides the one guy who reminds me of Stanley from The Office, is the only returning cast member for the entire film. He is the only one. So the Fast and the Furious name, they decided to take it in this sort of direction where it would be just following around these different interesting people in the fictional world of drag racing.
I mean,
right?
It's still Paul Walker. I think what they intended is Paul Walker would be the sole thread. They believed he had the strength to carry this franchise. Paul Walker.
A lot of people like Paul Walker.
I don't. Paul Walker is a vanilla bean man.
There are some Paul Walker stands out there. Yeah, and
wrong.
Honestly, I get it.
They're wrong.
He's a cute little boy.
Yeah, he's a little boy.
He's a cute little boy.
In a series about big man.
Big man with car. He has nitrous.
Big man with car.
Of all people who press nitrous button, a big man, Paul Walker, he pressed nitrous button best. Ooh.
Every time he uses the nitrous in that car, he looks like a little boy in church who just got his Game Boy taken away from him. It's not exactly what I would call riveting.
Yeah. So in Too Fast, Too Furious, Paul Walker is coming into the middle of another big crime syndicate. He lost his license. He's no longer a cop from the last film because he let Vin Diesel go. And he's getting sort of this second shot. And again, it's him working between these giant crime families and the cops, working that middle road. And also expressing his love for big muscle cars. Woman. Apparently, they really establish Paul Walker as a genuine, bona fide ladies man.
No,
in this
he's
film.
Not good at it.
He's not good at it, but
apparently he's a wannabe.
He is a wannabe. He's a really wannabe ladies man.
Yeah.
Yeah. He as much as his friend Roman would describe him as. Other notable features of this film, Ludacris is a big part of it. As you probably heard in that text blurb from failed intro #1. Ludacris, I did look up. I was right. Is the composer for Justin Bieber's Baby. And he does the rap in there. If you out there in the audience need a refresher on who Ludacris is from the 2003 movie Too Fast, Too Furious.
Yes. Mm-hmm. You might also remember him because we identified him.
Yes, we did. We found him. We've located Ludacris.
I couldn't have done it. It was all you, my man.
I know where you are.
Ludacris. Fear before your life. You are not safe inside your home because our audio cannot be stopped.
We know where you are.
It comes through the Ethernet.
I found you on Wikipedia.
Exactly. That's basically the same.
It's basically the same thing.
Yeah, our podcast cannot be stopped by walls. It is on internet.
No, we will find you. We know where you are.
You will probably find this podcast.
You. We found you. We know where you are.
We're going to include you in the tags of this podcast.
We know you're listening, Ludacris, and we just wanted to say that we loved your performance in Too Fast, Too Furious. And honestly,
I didn't.
Snubbed for best actor
awful.
in a supporting role. I think that you were just amazing. That white suit that you wore the whole time, such a bold choice.
It looked terrible.
And it wasn't a suit. I really want to say bravo, hats off to you, and I can't wait to see more of your future art.
Can you stop with Ludacris?
Yes. Okay, we can move on from Ludacris.
We've had enough of Ludacris for now.
I can.
Unfortunately, the movie has not had enough of Ludacris.
No, the movie has not had enough of Ludacris. He pops up frequently throughout the film.
He has no importance to the movie except at the very end, and even then, he could have been replaced with literally anyone.
Mm-hmm. He was just a generic drag race underworld guy.
Yeah, he was man.
Yeah,
man number 2.
So
no, 3.
It's really hard to talk about this movie. Really, I've already said the most interesting part, which is the fact that only one big cast member continues from this film to the others. From an outside perspective, someone who's only ever seen Fast and the Furious 8, only ever seen Hobbs and Shaw, and just recently watched the first and second films. It's weird to me, from an outside perspective, to see that he's the only returning cast member in this film. I always picture this movie as the big... The joke is the whole family meme, you know.
Yeah.
You think to yourself, you picture Vin Diesel, you picture his whole family group and everything. And that's what this evolves into. So,
I mentioned in episode 1 that the only movie I'd ever seen was 3, which is famous for being basically a different series. Like, it's just a completely disconnected movie.
Yeah.
I did not anticipate that the second movie, and that they would do that twice.
Yeah.
Because this movie has nothing to do with the last one, with the exception of 3 lines of dialogue and the fact it's the same dude.
Yeah. So, no, do you want to go into a basic thing, some generic overall thoughts about the film, and then we're going to go into some of the nitty-gritty.
Okay, so Little Nitro Boy is a cop, and he's secret cop because he is in Drag Race. He gets taken out of Drag Race by cop who thinks he's not cop and is instead drag racer. And now he is in police custody. Turned out he cop. This is how we learn he's still cop, even though he was he turned against cop in first movie, sort of, kind of. But you know, everybody kisses and makes better. It's nice.
Lots of kissing.
Then he is put on a new sort of mission. He's got to get close to a mobster, big money man.
What's his name?
Don't know. I never internalized it.
I think it started with
he had a bad suit.
Yeah, that was so funny.
In his first scene, no joke, the rich man shows up in the most ill-fitting suit I've seen since that, like, Pitbull music video.
It's so wrinkled. It's bunched up.
It buffets in the wind. It is a suit. It should be tailored to your body. Even zoot suits back in the day were tailored to your body.
People with money would presumably know how to tailor that to themselves, yeah.
Or, and not just throw something on that their dad wore, looking like a preteen at prom.
And we spend our first introduction to him is through this FBI scene, which we got same cut for cut from the first film.
Yeah, it's just like, look at screen. That is big bad man.
Yeah, he's big bad. He's very dangerous. We spooky. Ooh. That's what we get at the start of this film. And the first time we see him, he's wearing this really baggy suit, and he looks like a dork. And he is the opposite of threatening. And
who did he look like? He looked like a discount
Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah, he has a discount Matthew McConaughey.
He's a discount Matthew McConaughey face, definitely, 100%.
So
Now that we told you, if you ever watch this film, you'll never be able to get that out of your mind.
Oh, don't worry. There's a lot of discount faces in this movie.
Oh, of course, yeah.
So, discount Matthew McConaughey in a bad-fitting suit says, "Hey, I want you to do a race to get a thing from a car in a police impound lot and bring it back to me to prove that you're good at drive." They do it. 2 people die on the way for some reason. It's not important. And they break into the car lot, steal the package, and drive home. They get to Big Man. It's a cigar. Turns out he is a big jerk, and they didn't actually have to steal anything. He was just testing them, and he never told them that.
That's a great description.
The real job is that they have to... what do they have to do again?
Well, they...
What was the plot of the movie?
So, we talked over a lot of it.
Yeah.
But... basically, there's a lot of money hidden in a trailer inside of a trailer park, and it's like a giant money stash. And Homeboy is trying to get away, right? I think he's aware. I'm guessing he's aware of the heat that's coming on to him, and he has to do this one last mission to move all this cash within 15 minutes. Right? It's a very short window, and he needs to get these millions of dollars worth of cash outside of that safe location onto his boat, so he can get away and live in the Bahamas. So that his initial race was just to test the mettle of everybody. So it was like recruitment to see who is worthy of taking part in this mission.
Oh, I forgot something super important. After a big race, they ask Nitro Boy what he wants as his partner. And they almost pair him up with Boy Who Drink Big Gulp. And he said, no, that's bad. And
no big gulp boy.
So they go and drive out to the middle of the desert. There's a, what do you call the mosh pit with cars?
A rally?
Demolition Derby.
Demolition Derby, that's it.
Mosh pit with cars, sure.
It works.
Fair enough. And in it, they find a bald black man with big arms and no sleeves.
Roman, yeah.
Roman.
Like Roman.
Oh, yeah, we're going to give him a name?
No, that's his name. That's his name.
I know, but I've been calling everybody else nonsense names.
I only remember his name.
That's entirely fair.
It took me half the movie to realize that Paul Walker's character's name was Brian.
His name is... We didn't pick that up in the first movie, did we?
No, I did not pick that up. No, unless it's
his name is Paul Walker.
Unless it's a witness protection program type thing. Where...
No, it was on his shirt.
Yeah, well, yeah, but you can get a new shirt.
It was the same shirt.
You don't have to keep that shirt with you your entire life.
It was the same one from the first movie.
Was it?
Yeah, it was the same mechanic outfit.
It looks similar.
It's gray. It's the same one.
Okay.
It had the logo and everything.
I guess I'll just have to believe you because I have no other choice.
They take this man, Roman, and he is the partner
childhood best friend of Brian.
Yeah, and like old car stealing buddy who got busted at some point in the past and blamed Cop Boy for obvious reason. So these two...
It's a very paper cutter,
cookie cutter.
Yeah, cookie cutter, copy and paste. You did that to yourself. No, you did that to me. Very easily resolvable friendship. Nothing issues. Nothing you've never seen before. You know.
You probably have seen the same thing in like a news pamphlet. Like, what do you call those little magazines that have like the Queen births alien?
Tabloids.
Yeah, like a tabloid. It's bad. It's writing's on level. So, they get a job from Big Evil Money Man, who look like a famous actor, but isn't. And he takes off his ill-fitting suit, looks significantly better as a character design, and more threatening, and proceeds to smoke the cigar that they brought him. And he explains their job to them, and fills them in on information in his garden because he knows that there are bugs in his house. Which means he did know there was heat on him.
Yeah. So I guess that's what it is that he knows that there's the heat, which is why he's trying to get the heck out of Dodge. And he, I think, obviously knows that Cop Boy is Cop Boy, but he plays along for now, at least. He has the intuition of it, yeah. Because he looks dead in Paul Walker's eyes when he talks about that later in the film. They
are provided 3 things. 1, they are given very, fast car.
Mm-hmm.
But they are given fast car by police, and police have tracker on fast car.
Yes.
Cannot be taken out.
We should mention before we get further the Asian female character.
Oh, Gender.
Gender, yeah. Mm-hmm.
We're just calling her Gender because that's her only trait.
Mm-hmm.
Is girl.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
She drive pink car, wear pink clothes. Even the nitrous fire that comes out the back of her car is pink somehow.
Mm-hmm.
Don't ask me how that works. It doesn't.
No.
The answer is it doesn't.
Yep.
She pink. Pink girl Gender.
She pink Gender.
Mm-hmm. She's not important. She's about as important as Ludacris in that she isn't, and she's just there.
Yes.
Gender aside.
Mm-hmm. That's clever.
We are going into the part of the movie where I think we both zoned out.
Mm-hmm.
Because there is, I think, a 30-minute stretch of preparation for the job.
Yeah, preparation for the finale, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And in that process, they race they race some random goons.
Yeah, some random goons, yeah.
For pink slips.
Mm-hmm.
Steal their cars because of that.
Yeah.
Set a windshield on fire because it's the people tailing them at all times from the mob boss. Because that's what mob bosses do. They encounter the FBI guys again. They have a heated argument because Romaine shot up. Shot Roman, at the FBI guy. Yeah, Roman shot at Customs. Actually, it's Customs. No, so while they were stealing the thing from car in police custody, there was a cop who drove up and tried to and tried to take it. And Roman decided to, in order to maintain their cover, open fire at the police car. Mm-hmm. If he had wanted to, he could have killed the cop, but didn't. I think on purpose. Nitro Boy establishes this, Ball Walker. Maybe that was just an excuse given later on, but effectively they meet up later and the cop is just like, "You tried to kill me!" And there's a whole falling out until Roman eats his sandwich. Mm-hmm. That's a real scene in the movie. He says, if I wanted you dead, you'd be dead. And then eats his sandwich in front of him. And then in the car later. He gesticulates with it, and it's the funniest thing in the movie. Which isn't that funny. So, after this, we have one more meeting with Mob Boss in club this time. Meeting with Mob Boss in club have many pretty lady. Mm-hmm. And also, like, they have a conversation with him, and then he references, like, a fat man in the corner being hit on by pretty lady that is in his command. Yeah, he was talking about how the woman, she always, he specifically points her out to Paul Walker and Romaine. That's the lettuce. I keep on saying that because he's eating a sandwich at one scene. There's a big thing of lettuce popping out. Yeah, and I called it. It's like, yo, it's romaine. It's romaine lettuce. Yeah. So Roman eating romaine, and Nitro Boy are looking at this lady, and he says that she always gets what she wants, you know, and she's look at how masterful she's able to turn somebody around into doing something they don't want to do. And specifically, she's used to get Detective Boy into the back rooms with Criminal Man and with knockoff Matthew McConaughey. And turns out that a hairy guy with pretty lady is actually detective in knockoff Matthew McConaughey's crime payroll. And specifically, knockoff Matthew McConaughey is trying to get Detective Man, he's trying to buy off Detective Man, so that way Detective Man leaves a 15-minute gap in this very specific area, so that way he can go and he can grab the funds and leave. Mm-hmm. And Detective Man says, "No, I can't do that. I've done a lot of dirty stuff for you, but I'm not gonna do that for you because I could lose my job, you know." That is not what he says. He does not say it out of honor. He says, like, that's too risky. Mm. Big Crime Boy does not like this. Yeah. And so begins, I think, the best conceptualized and worst to watch scene of the movie, which establishes him as a genuine, credible threat of a villain. The first time we actually feel like he's an actual genuine threat. It's that show not tell, right? Mm-hmm. Typically,
whenever you have Big Bad in whenever your movie you're watching, within 5 minutes of meeting Big Bad gives you a reason to fear Big Bad. That doesn't happen in this movie. He comes in looking like a dwarf version of Matthew McConaughey, and we have no reason to believe he's not that until about 30-40 minutes into the film. That's when this happens.
Yeah, so McConaughey is...
Matthew McConaughey
decides he's not happy with that answer and has his goons hold the man down and proceeds to place a rat on his belly, cover it with a bucket, then begin heating the metal bucket with a blowtorch to encourage the rat to dig out through the man's innards. It is surprisingly graphic an idea, and also a real thing people did in history, which is terrible. But I think they got the idea from probably watching the 1984 movie, not actually reading the book. And so that is a surprisingly gruesome scene. Not because it actually does, but because the dude who is the detective on the ground is giving, I think, the performance of his life. Yeah. His face is red. He is on his back. He is pleading, screaming. It's terrible. This is a Fast and Furious movie. Keep that in mind.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, don't forget, there's Paul Walker in the corner of the room looking pretty vague about it.
I'm going to give a quick interjection real quick. So when it comes to talking about what I just said, which was that whenever you see Big Bad in your movie, within the first 5 minutes, they give you a reason to fear them. Well, in the first Fast and Furious movie, it's not the case. The reason why is because in the entire point of the first Fast and the Furious film is Paul Walker attempting to determine the allegiance of Dominic Toretto, right? They're not quite sure who's pulling off these van heists, but they're thinking it's him. And he says, no, he's such a nice guy. He cares about family. He's got big muscles. How could somebody with such big muscles and big heart do something like that?
You have big family.
So we don't get that sort of scene in the first one, but there's a reason why. In this film, it's contextualized entirely in a different manner. Yeah. So the fact that we don't get that early on means that it's less effective, which wouldn't be the case for the first film. But continue.
What makes I think, yeah, you're right. Like, the first and second movie are a completely different genre. The first movie is a mystery. Yeah. It's a poorly executed mystery. Yes. And it could have been done better, but it's still a mystery. You don't know who the bad guy is. That's the point. Yes. The second movie is more intrigue, action-oriented. We know who the bad guy is. So it is strange it waits so long to give us a reason he's a credible threat, though it does make up for it by going really hard on that.
It goes very far. And I think neither of us really had a reason to care about this movie. There's a lot of things that happened before, which we're going to save the talks about effects and gratuitous content of the film for a little bit. Yeah, until the end of our conversation. But as we're going through this, there were plenty of reasons for us not to be truly invested in this story. And this scene really gives us like the whole driving force that, wow, I hate this guy. I'm ready to see this guy's demise, right? That's what a good evil cackling villain scene should be.
I love to hate him.
Yeah, love to hate him. Yeah. And you know, there are a lot of films that can't say that about their big evil villain. You know?
With a movie with a big evil villain whose the whole premise is taking him down, you gotta love to hate him. That's the movie right there. You're looking at him in his poor fitting suit. Yeah. And I think this movie is, it reflects that. This movie is a surprisingly threatening villain in a poor fitting suit. A great script with execution that is lacking. Now, after this point, I think we both started paying attention because the movie did the Alfred Hitchcock, bird thing that woke us up in the middle. We're starting to doze. And this is where the movie kind of really starts. So we've already established that the cops have put a tracker on him, and that means that the cops are kind of thinking about playing him. And we know that the mafia doesn't trust him at all, and also that the mafia is ruthless. So they're kind of trying to outplay everyone on the field, which is actually a pretty great sort of way to run these sorts of movies. Threats on all sides, you got to weave your way out through the middle. And what proceeds next is the heist. The heist consists of them driving their low-jacked supercars into up to the place where the goons of the villain bring out 2 of the most clean Hobby Lobby sledgehammers I've ever seen in my life.
Yeah, those
are
great.
Y'all couldn't have put duct tape on the handle. You couldn't have made it dirty. Brush on some paint. Nothing. Okay, so these are brand new.
Yeah.
You could almost see the sticker on them.
In retrospect, you could make the argument that that's sort of the aesthetic of this gang. Is that sort of like clean shaven like approach, that's kind of his aesthetic.
Judging by the fact that earlier in the movie they show up and like start toting guns in a like Mexican standoff at a boat for no suspicion other than the fact that somebody might be there. Yeah, those 2 aren't clean shaven. Those are thugs.
Yeah.
Why is it that the thugs do not have access to their own sledgehammer, which would have looked threatening and interesting?
It's just one of those moments in the film that's just like you can clearly see the production assistant going to Home Depot and purchasing 2 gigantic sledgehammers.
They're not even gigantic; they're just normal sledgehammers.
On their way to pick up Starbucks for the cast and crew.
I literally just want to get one of these costume departments and tie the handle of one of them, tie the handle of both of them to the back of a car and drive it around the lot for 2 minutes. And then represent it as, here, your sledgehammers. You're done. You made it look wear and tear.
This is something that a criminal would use. Yeah.
Yeah. So then they take these pristine, very, very clean-looking sledgehammers and proceed to do in a normal drywall wall, which probably could have been taken down with their fists.
Mm-hmm.
And they even take the effort to take the painting down.
Yeah.
So that visual interest is gone.
Tearing through the painting, yeah.
Yeah, that would have been cool, if only.
Couldn't afford it.
Yeah, no, because they had to keep redoing the tank.
They were renting the painting.
But not the wall.
No, yeah.
So they bust through the wall and go ahead and grab out what is a ludicrous amount of money. A stupid amount of money.
You get the buzzer.
Yeah, I felt it in my brain.
You got ludicrous.
What is the opposite of an endorphin? I just felt that. That was awful. So, they dump a stupid amount of money into a couple of duffel bags, and then stuff half the duffels into each of the 2 major cars. Now, goons came in their own car, so we get to see what's his name? What's the lettuce boy?
Romaine. Yeah.
No, Roman. His name is Roman.
I'm calling him Romaine.
Yeah. Okay. So Romaine takes a brick, throws it on the gas pedal of that car, and then sends it into the now approaching police officers, crashing into them. And each of them takes off with one of the goons in their in their passenger side seat.
Yeah.
What then proceeds is, I think, the lamest thing in a chase I've ever seen. But how very fast and furious of it. And what happens in the movie is they drive away as fast as they can, go to a garage, and immediately pull into the garage. And no joke, 100 cop cars begin to surround the garage.
They all stop outside of the garage. They don't even try to get inside.
No,
they wait for them to come out.
And then...
This enormous garage complex.
Yeah. All the garage doors open. It's a ton of them. There's 7.
Mm-hmm.
And then a bunch of giant trucks barrel out and push all the cop cars out of the way. Okay, so now these 2 are going to escape. No. What follows is 200 fast racing street racer cars all flooding into the street.
Mm-hmm.
Because they somehow got every street racer in the entire city
Isn't that
to
like
agree...
an I Am Spartacus sort of moment?
I don't even know what that is.
So everybody is here volunteering to help out Paul Walker and Roman, which it really isn't established. It's not established.
Yeah, no.
If anything, these people have plenty of right to hate them. Right? The only person who has any real reason to have allegiance with Paul Walker and Roman is Ludacris. Because Ludacris got a cut of Paul Walker's money, and he said that in the beginning he said that you know what that's called respect. But even the guys who hated them were joining in to help them out. So it was like this big child movie ending sort of thing.
It was
right?
really unearned.
But yeah, extremely unearned and out of nowhere. everybody decides to help out. It's this gigantic coordinated thing. It's as if it's this sort of footloose drag racers are not going to take it from the police anymore, you know? But here's the thing, is that A, the mission has nothing to do with supporting drag racers, and B, them helping out only endangers them and in no way, again, helps that drag racers alliance.
One of them even says, like, this is the big one, as if he's obtaining anything from this. He doesn't. He super doesn't.
Yeah.
So they drive away.
It's really bad. It's really bad.
And the low-jacked supercars end up getting driven into a corner by all the police. Mm-hmm. And when they open up the doors, who do they find inside?
Ludacris
it's Gender.
Ludacris and Gender.
Ludacris.
Mm-hmm.
Ludacris and Gender. It was Ludacris Gender. And the Ludacris Gender pair proceed to use a cell phone to connect to CB radio and tell Paul Walker and Romaine, hey, y'all owe me one, while he is being arrested.
Mm.
Turns out they're in the muscle cars that they took for pink slips. That was established much earlier. Weird to try and pull a twist when we already knew that they were doing this. Mm-hmm. We just didn't know the method. So they drive away, all the money in their new muscle cars, which are not low-jacked. And the plan is to drive away with the money.
Mm-hmm.
And Roman is about to do that. In fact, he starts doing that until he hears over CB radio that, oh, by the way, they put ejector seats into the...
Roman did the ejection first and was heading towards the airplane, which they were told... We never even mentioned, what's her face? What are we going to call her? The secret agent lady was already there.
She was Girl.
Yeah, Girl?
She's Girl that Pretty Boy fell in love with.
Yeah, so Girl tells them that they're going to the airport, so that way they can relay that to customs at the FBI. But turns out that the big Matthew McConaughey actually lied to Girl. Girl has been undercover for about 11 and a half months. Mm-hmm. He said it was almost a full year, so it's kind of symbolic there. She had kept her cover perfectly until the moment where she was the only one who was told where the location was, and it was an incorrect location, which really does not make much sense. If she had had a perfect cover for 11 and a half months, why in the world would he tell only her a very specific location to test her loyalty after 11 and a half months of criminal activity? That makes absolutely no sense to me.
I think the whole point is that, because like we established that this dude is completely and utterly paranoid.
Yeah.
Like, he's rightfully paranoid. He thinks everyone's after him because they are.
Yeah.
And so...
That just doesn't line up too well. But anyway, it's acceptable, but it's still... It could have been better written. That sort of... disloyalty and untrust, but so they're actually dropping it off at a boat port, and Paul Walker shows up there first because he did not eject the thug that was with him who told him where to go, and so they both head over to the port, and they both eventually get there. The Paul Walker's money is taken onto the boat. And Matthew McConaughey takes the girl onto the boat hostage, and Paul Walker is kept out for the boat as the boat leaves. Then Roman shows up, and they both have this crazy idea, and their idea is to take their car, and they're going to drive it off of a ramp and land it onto Matthew McConaughey's nice, like, cruise ship boat. And they do it, and it is the dumbest...
I will say, at the very least, this movie had the decency to have them be injured by the crash.
Yeah, they were injured by the crash, and the car physically was on the boat. That was one big set piece of the car being on there.
That was practical. It was pretty nice.
The whole collision of the car into the boat was not done that well. There was that CG sort of segment of the car in air, and then in order to simulate the car having fallen, they just sprinkled some debris over that set piece, which is the car and boat combined. that was pretty transparent.
Still, it it sold it. It was pretty all right.
But this was this scene in particular is important as we are going through the franchise to plot how ridiculous it gets. That was the new high for the series. Before it was probably the train heist, which was a really crazy one with the grappling hooks and everything. We forgot to talk about something. We never mentioned the dumbest logical element of this film, which are EMP harpoons.
Oh, God.
Mm-hmm.
So, fun thing.
They're established early in the film, in the first race.
It only comes up, like, 3 times.
Mm-hmm.
The first time is in the race where Paul Walker gets captured by cops and is turned out to be cop. In that establishing race, which is bad, he gets chased by... Or no, he drives past a cop who's standing outside with a big, weird 3-holed gun, which then shoots like a 3-pointed fork in the shape of a triangle, and it clamps into his car and starts electrifying his car. I should note, his car is a normal car. This movie was made in 2003. This is a diesel engine normal car,
and for some reason
it stops everything.
In the beginning, it doesn't really stop everything. It just makes him no longer be able to brake or accelerate, and
it's like it saps the car energy from and it makes the brakes not work.
Braking is a fluid system,
which makes no sense. The accelerator is also a mechanical system at this point in time. That makes no sense.
Mm-hmm.
I think at a certain point they established that it like locks the doors or something.
Now later in the film, it makes a little bit more sense because they go into detail on these rides that that Customs gave them. He talks about the guy the mechanic he has to look at the car. He says, "Yo, man, you got a GPS system in this car. It's so wired that every time you press down a pedal, they can know exactly where you are and how much pressure you put on it." And he's like, "Okay, can you take that GPS system out?" He says, "No, man, it's right there along next to all the braking and driving control. It's an it's an unremovable part of this car. It is built in there. I cannot remove it." So that's why they have the motive to go and seek out other rides, because they can't remove that GPS tracking. So in all fairness, when this reoccurs in the film, it can make sense that if you were to shock the electronics of the car, that it would mess with the braking and the acceleration of the car. But here's the thing. These harpoons aren't sent into the engine. They aren't sent into the electronics. They're just shot into the car door, which, if anybody here knows, is a completely separate and isolated system from the electronics of the car.
It's an inert piece of metal.
Mm-hmm.
So
if you're safe in a car in a lightning storm, because the lightning, it's like a Faraday cage.
Yeah.
It won't mess with the electronics of your car. Your car will be totally fine if it is struck by a gigantic bolt of lightning. So I would assume that an electrocuted harpoon would also be totally safe. Your car would be completely fine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, there's also the fact they're not connected to a power source.
Also, it's 2003.
And no cars are electric.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So we establish that this works on a normal car.
Mm-hmm.
Then they get a low-jacked ride. Then that low-jacked ride gets hit with one partially in the heist sequence.
The harpoon shooting machine is like a bazooka from Heroes Quest. What's the name? Do you remember in Wreck-It Ralph? The new game that's added where the Medal of Honor is? No? Okay. Well, it looks like a weapon from that.
Okay. So it's not good.
Mm-mm.
So it hits their low-jacked ride in the middle of the heist sequence, but only 2 of the 3 prongs activate or something. Paul Walker then proceeds to lean out of his car, like bodily, and reach over to the back driver's side door and yank on it till it pulls out. And all throughout this, the 2 prongs that are attached to it are sapping his car force and making his car slowly slower for some reason. I don't know why, but it is. He unyanks it from his car.
We're missing one additional funny part about it is that for some reason one of the prongs isn't in the correct position.
Well, that's what I was saying.
It's not in the jam. Yeah, two of them are completely fine. This whole trident thing is perfectly lodged into this door, but only one of them, they just got that unlucky shot, I guess. They didn't hack into the mainframe well enough with that third prong.
There's no visual indicator that that's how this works.
Yeah.
The three are all in.
Yeah.
It's not like it's not making connection. It's not like it hit and grazed. No, the thing went full broadside into it.
Mm-hmm.
No clue why the third prong doesn't work until he starts yanking on it, at which point it starts working until he fully yanks it out. And here's the kicker. You might have argued, okay, his original ride was also a police-operated ride.
Mm-hmm.
Maybe it was also low-jacked. Maybe both of these are low-jacked vehicles. Fine. He then picks it up and throws it at a ordinary diesel cop car, which then electrocutes it, and it swerves.
I forgot about it. He throws it into the front of the car, where
into the grill.
Yeah, into the grill.
He throws it into the grill, which I guess it makes exactly as much sense as the door.
What a great sequence! What an amazing sequence!
So this apparently is a magic thing with no power source.
Mm-hmm.
It's made of anti-Cartonium.
Yes.
So anti-Cartonium takes the car energy out. It's like the Flash.
Cartonite.
Sure, it's Cartonite. It's made of Cartonite. Sure, Mactonite. So they, after ramping their car, in a movie which does not care about how cars work, it ramps their car a stupid distance and it lands on a boat. Our boy, whose name I've forgotten already.
Paul Walker.
Paul Walker
Brian.
gets a mild concussion, and Roman, quote unquote, breaks his arm. It's fine.
Mm-hmm.
Which means, though, Roman can't use the gun he carries. And when Badman steps up onto the wreckage and holds a shotgun at them, it's up to Paul Walker to pick up gun from Roman's lap, which is fine, and then shoot Badman in the shoulder.
Now, it is established earlier at the beginning of this whole boat getaway sequence that Matthew McConaughey does have this shotgun, and the way that he brandishes it is he's holding it towards Lady, because he knows that Lady is working for customs, but he's holding it with one arm,
now,
full executioner style.
Here's the thing:
Mm-hmm.
you'd assume then, as a listener who hasn't seen the movie, like a reasonable, God-fearing adult, you would assume then that it's a sawn-off double-barrel shotgun like the Terminator uses.
Mm-hmm.
No. This is a single-barrel pump-action shotgun that he is holding like it's a pistol.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
It's terrible.
You can tell it's a fake plastic prop.
He's going to break his wrist if it were real without even firing it. Because he's basically holding a long sword out with the world's most awkward grip.
Mm-hmm.
And he brandishes the shotgun but drops it when he's shot in the shoulder.
Yeah.
And he's about to get up. He's about to, really get his revenge. And then girl picks up shotgun because she action girl now.
Yeah.
And
it's a big twist.
Bad man.
It's a big twist because women aren't allowed to have guns. So it's like,
yeah, women are run away. They big scared.
That's the tone that this movie gives off. The fact that that's supposed to be a surprise is insulting.
Yeah. Well, because remember, the only other female character of who isn't literally eye candy is Gender.
Yeah.
Who is pink. Her personality is pink.
She can drive car, but barely.
She can drive car pretty good, but car pink, and car engine produce pink flames because pink.
It's the worst.
It's bad.
Yes.
So that's the plot of the movie. And after arresting Badman, the best line in the movie gets said, in which Paul Walker says, you're totally dead when he gets out of jail. He ain't never getting out of jail. Wait, do you think he'll get out of jail?
They give...
And then Paul Walker walks away, at which point he goes... he, wobbles his head from side to side, unsure of where to look, and then, follows after, a little worried, obviously nervous. He's in a cast now, which is great. Girl is stupid and tries to shake his hand in the cast.
Oh, yeah, she does. I forgot about that, too.
And it hurts him. Because
I'm glad one of us remembers this movie.
So, at end of movie, Stanley from The Office says, "You did good, son," and proceeds to give Paul Walker a pat on the back because he's a good boy who needs fatherly affection. And that's literally the only reason he risked his life is because he wanted a pat on the back.
You almost forgot the fact that they make a "don't drop the soap" joke at Matthew McConaughey.
They do make a "don't drop the soap" joke at Matthew McConaughey.
He's a cute little boy, so I mean...
He does look like he simultaneously looks 40 and 12. It's really terrible.
Amazing.
I don't know, like...
What a great villain.
The dude probably looks fine. Costumes. Hey, the costumes department for this movie, I know that you have no other work experience, judging by your work. What were you thinking making our villain dress like this? He's a mess. The man looks like... He seriously has prom energy. I've never seen a villain have prom energy. Which makes it all the more confusing that he looks like a competent villain for like 3 scenes in the middle, and then they go back to it. Because apparently his casual wear is an ill-fitting suit.
Yeah.
It looks like sweatpants.
Exactly. It's like they had a different actor in mind who dropped the last second and they could only get Matthew McConaughey.
Yeah. Like, if they were...
They had actual Matthew McConaughey.
So, if you were waiting to see at what point we mentioned Dominic Toretto, he never shows up in this movie. A disappointment to both of us.
We were both waiting for him to show up. We were both sorely missing...
I thought maybe in a credit sequence.
Because the thing about Vin Diesel... I've been thinking a lot about Vin Diesel recently. I think a lot about Vin Diesel all day, every day. And in this specific Vin Diesel thinking section, pondering, I like to call it. Vin pondering. Diesel pondering. I was thinking about it, and I was thinking, the thing about Vin Diesel, what makes him so magical to my enjoyment of a Fast and Furious film, is that it's written in his character buyout that he can never truly be cool. He can't. It's impossible. He can never achieve coolness. There will always be something about him that makes him really lame at all times. And the Fast and the Furious movies have to treat him as the head macho mafioso. And that is the funniest thing ever, because he can never truly pull that off, because he's always at all times a little bit sad and a little bit pathetic. Because he's
even in the first movie, he looked too old for his role.
Yeah.
Dude, for whatever reason, like, even when he was what, 30 in that movie? Dude has the tired look of an ancient man who's seen
He's supposed to be the Clint Eastwood of drift racing in the first film.
He just looks like he has back pain.
Yeah.
Like, I'm not joking. Like, he really just looks uncomfortable at all times. That's why he stands so stiffly and doesn't
neither of us are really into the car stuff at all. And
I feel like if we were, we'd be more angry. Because both of these movies have no idea how cars work.
They don't, but we are not into fake car work either, which is another audience. That's the audience for the Fast and Furious movies. Yes. So really, all we're here for is Vin Diesel. So when he never showed up, we were both very, very disappointed. I was happy with the villain that we got, but he is no substitute for what Vin Diesel adds to this franchise.
Yeah, it was honestly really disappointing. And respect to the guy who played Roman. Roman. Roman's cool, but he is not. He's not written to be an effective replacement as a of the big man alternative. Because instead, Roman just sort of feels like a ne'er-do-well, because he's got sticky fingers all the time and kind of is a gross stereotype. It's not great.
No, not great at all. So, do we want to move on to the next aspect of the film, which would be the visual effects? There's a lot to talk about here.
Yeah.
Since you took mainly the lead on the plot, because apparently this movie is so forgettable, I've already forgotten half of it. But what I do remember vividly are the ways that the visual effects were done for this film. Now, I think the methods for Fast 1 and Too Fast, Too Furious are identical. But it's all about, it's not about the methods you use, it's how you use them. And the amount of craftsmanship and time and effort you put into hiding the proverbial string that allows you to perform the magic trick that is filmmaking. And the effort into the visual effects of Too Fast, Too Furious is bottom of the barrel. It is really sad. We're talking, most of the car chase scenes are done, if you don't know the Hollywood magic spoilers, typically when you see the actor, the in-car scene is shot with an actual car resembling interior, but it's next to a green screen. They are not moving. Sometimes they'll simulate movement using a wind machine, but that's it. And you can tell this sort of happens. It's a dead giveaway is when a car does a jump or something like that big happens, and the way that they simulate that with this footage is either A, you have the actor jump up in their seat like that, you do like a little bit of a fall, or you just shake the camera around a little bit. And often this movie either shakes the camera around a little bit or does neither, which is a dead giveaway
because they're just people in their seat.
So it's similar to in like the Tron Legacy movie where you like they're in these like big motorcycle things, but it's like a simulation, like how Iron Man is inside the Iron Man suit and it's just a black background.
No momentum.
Yeah, it's just he's just there. You see the CGI thing moving across the battlefield, looking super cool, but it's all we see of Tony Stark is just Tony Stark next to a black background, right?
Or alternately, with the Tony Stark example, if his helmet is off, they comped in his head.
Yeah.
Or with the light cycle example, they comped in the interior onto the glass, and that's it. That's all you get.
It is really lame because every time you see the actors show up in these car sequences, you can instantly tell they're not even moving. They're just sitting on a set. And they're holding the wheel, and like it's the funniest parts are when like they're in the first race there was the guy who was wearing the hat. I can't remember anything about him besides that, but he was like really turning his wheel all around. And if the car's not moving, he is a child on a playset.
He's doing the Maggie Simpson thing in the Simpsons intro.
At least Paul Walker had the guts to just be stone-faced the entire time through all these scenes and treat it as lame as it truly is, you know?
Yeah, and I don't think that's even intentional. I think they got Paul Walker in for like 10 seconds of footage and then decided to slow it down.
So
because he never emotes.
They intercut that footage alongside some shots of real train drivers doing some of these mild stunts, but most of those gaps are filled in with terrible CG. What's very, very obvious.
I will say, I don't think it was for a lack of trying, because of how much CGI this movie has. No joke, 80% of its driving sequences are some form of visual effects. Either you've got a green screen background close up, or you've got a green screen background comped into a 3-dimensional shot, or it's a 3D shot, or it's like any combination of these. Like the majority of these sequences are VFX, and that means that since the majority of the movie is driving sequences, you run into the problem of spreading your work too thin. It's lame. It's unbelievably lame. It's uninspired. It's honestly super amateurish looking. You mentioned the thing it reminds you most is Spy Kids.
Yes, it reminds me of Spy Kids. Yeah, the Robert Rodriguez film a lot. There's one sequence in particular where Jamie and Jamie's sister are hooked up to one of Machete's jetpacks, and they're obviously just standing there on a green screen little thing with a wind blower at their face, going "Whoa!" doing this little Superman pose.
Yeah.
And then there's a tacky visual effect that makes them fly around the city. You know.
So the two. They did so much in this movie to try and limit the scope of the CGI, and they still had to do so much.
Yeah.
And one of those, which is my favorite detail that I noticed, so we didn't mention before, but Roman is bald.
Yes.
They put him in the topless car.
The convertible, yeah.
which means that the wind has no hair to blow through.
And his clothes are entirely still.
They are.
Yeah.
They blow in the wind a little, but because they're shielded, that's okay. You can just have a wind machine. But yeah, his hair would have been whipping around if he had it. So they chose a bald actor, because the convertible part never came up. You'd think if you make a car convertible, then somebody's going to jump into it at some point. No, it literally is never important, which is astounding. And so all of this VFX, all of it, just makes up the bulk of an unimpressive movie. But there's another problem with it, which is the VFX makes you sick.
Yeah.
Nauseous. And the reason for this is its frame rate. Whoever rendered the 3 kinds of CGI, the 3D combination and green screen.
Set. Yeah, green screen.
And live action, these are all at different frame rates, I think, internally. The CGI is running at a full 60. It's smooth as butter. And the normal footage is at like 48 or something and has been upscaled to 60. So when you see people waving their hands in the background, it's choppy and weird, and it seems like the camera moves more smoothly than the people do. It's really unsettling. Then the green screen shots are at an even lower resolution because they use it for the action sequences where they slow the frame rate down on purpose to give the illusion of speed, and then upscale it back to 60 again, which is nauseating. And then the combination shots, where some parts of the frame are in 60 frames per second, some parts of the frame are in 48 frames per second, upscaled to 60 frames per second, and sometimes both of them have been chopped down into like 10 frames per second, and then upscaled back to 60 frames per second to fit everything else in the shot. It is a mess. It is a nightmare. I actually got physically nauseous watching it, and I'm a guy...
Has not aged well at all.
I'm a kid who played Kirby Air Ride for fun.
I can see in retrospect that at the time this would be pretty impressive, because like when you see the end credits scene, it's all CG. Is the end credits, not the end credits, but the end credits roll. It's all done with like a CG cars moving around, and that was, as many people thought, the extent of what CG could be. But this film is extremely enhanced with computer generated effects. And they try their best to hide it and use them as very little as possible. But honestly, there is a feat accomplished here. Like, you're right. It's not from lack of effort. They did accomplish something with this movie. They were able to do things that would have taken Kubrick levels of talent to be able to pull off entirely in live action and cut together, you know?
Yeah.
And they were able to do it on a regular blockbuster at the time budget. And that is truly remarkable. It has not aged well at all for the exact reasons that you just described.
I think even the sickening thing would have happened more then. Because people were less used to, like, fluctuating frame rates back then. That movie probably made people sick in theaters. In fact, like, if you can find, like, a news thing that says that somewhere, if somebody can, like, look through the Library of Congress to find a newspaper that says that, send it to our email address.
And another thing we pointed out was that it looked like a simulator ride, just like the Fast and the Furious screen simulator rides they have at Universal Studios.
Yeah, it looks like a Universal
And here's the thing, that might be a selling point. This movie could be more of an attraction than it is a film, and I can totally understand that.
Did they have it back then?
No.
They didn't have video coasters back then.
But that could be this sort of selling point, is that it's more of an attraction that you're meant to see in the big theater. You would not... The purpose of Fast and Furious 2, Too Fast, Too Furious would not be to buy the DVD and appreciate the lore. It's to go see it in theaters and have this sort of 4D theater experience, you know?
Dude, if I had seen it in a screen that big, I would have thrown up.
Yeah.
Like, there's no way that makes that frame rate thing better.
I'm not saying it's better, but I'm saying that the jank that you get there is the sort of same thing you would get in a 4D type theater, and there is a level of enjoyment to be had with both. So I think at the time, this was like the cinematic equivalent of a mediocre, nauseating attraction.
You have a point. It is kind of a nauseating, mediocre attraction of a movie. So
when you go on the Tilt-a-Whirl, you know that's going to make you puke, but you still go on it for the entertainment value of it.
This is not a Tilt-a-Whirl. Don't insult the Tilt-a-Whirl.
No. But just conceptual example.
This is a haunted mansion at best.
I do not bring up the haunted mansion.
I apologize. I didn't realize you felt strongly about it.
I feel very strongly about the haunted mansion. There is a new haunted mansion movie coming out next year.
Ooh.
They're coming back to it, yeah.
First
which
movie
means
was good. It was stupid, but I loved it.
It was very stupid, but we need to cover the Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion movie at one point, most certainly.
I want you to play the Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion video game.
It
was so fun and terrible, and its combat sucked.
We tried to find the Night at the Museum Battle for the Smithsonian game for the Wii, but that was a rabbit hole that did not end well.
No, maybe you could just look up like a long play on YouTube or something.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. So, closing thoughts about F2. In conclusion for F2, as we're doing for our Too Fast, Too Furious, as we're doing with every Fast and Furious film, we kept a tally throughout the film of gratuitous male sexual content, gratuitous female sexual content, and gratuitous advertising. So, as a recap, for the first Fast and the Furious movie, The Fast and the Furious, we had 6 counts of gratuitous male sexual content, where there were... we're talking sweaty, oily men with not very much clothing on, getting big, nice close-up shots throughout the film.
Something worth pausing on.
Yeah, something worth pausing on. And gratuitous female sexual content was a total of 23 in the first film. There were 23 different scenes where you felt like it over-sexualized women for the purpose of sexualizing women. And then there were about 2 counts of gratuitous advertising, mostly incidental sort of things. And if you actually know about the lore of these Fast and Furious films, most of that gratuitous advertising were cases of Corona. And it's not actually an official sponsor of the Fast and the Furious.
So this is something that I learned in between podcasts. Mm-hmm. It turns out the whole thing with Corona is nobody even knows why it's so prevalent in the movies. Nobody paid them. Corona didn't send them it in the first place. They do now, I think. But it's like one case. Mm-hmm. Which is like what you'd send somebody who wrote you a nice letter.
It's not what you would see normally in Hollywood, which is multi-million-dollar brand deals to put our product in your movie. It's
incredibly strange that it's so like important to the first movie.
Yeah.
It does not appear in the second movie.
So now we're going to compare to Too Fast, Too Furious. So Too Fast, Too Furious, F1 was 6 counts of gratuitous male sexual content. Too Fast, Too Furious, it's only 2 counts. And I do believe that both of these counts we counted in the same exact scene.
Yes.
Which was a scene where Roman, he's walking forward towards the camera, and he's unbuttoning his shirt all sexy. Like, so we count this as 2.
Oh, yeah.
Because it's like a strip tease.
So 2 things that are relevant about the scene. One, this is when they're like
they're
getting the
thing.
Car. They're getting the car. They're getting the thing from the car in the impound lot. And 2, the thing he's wearing in this moment is a sleeveless button-up jean shirt.
What great character design.
The sleeves look like somebody cut them off with shears. It is obviously homemade.
Yeah.
He proceeds to unbutton it, 1 button at a time as he's walking towards the camera.
Striptease sequence.
He opens up the chest and proceeds to
he wraps it around his hand.
Wraps it around one of his fists on his greasy, oiled body, and then punches in the window so that he can steal the thing from the car. Mm-hmm. And because of both the striptease and the full chest, abs, oiled everything, we counted it as 2. Now that's something that we do sometimes is when we're counting gratuity, there is always a chance for a double gratuity. Mm-hmm. The first gratuity is showing it. The second gratuity is how they show it.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
We did this a few times for female in the first movie.
Mostly if it was a female situation, the first point would be added because it's a full body close up of a woman wearing scantily clad clothing, and then the second point is added when a guy comes up and gropes her, which happens unfortunately many times in just the first 2 films.
Which is to say more than it should have, which is at all.
So that describes the 2 counts that we had in this film. We got 6 last time because man, Vin Diesel. When that's
Vin Diesel.
That's what makes it so good. Is because they think that showing Vin Diesel covered in oil with big muscly biceps taking up half the screen. They think that makes him look cool, and it's just sexy.
It just looks homoerotic. I can't help but tell you this.
Yeah, exactly.
Like, that's just what it is. If you don't believe me, watch the movie. You won't.
If there wasn't a homoerotic lens to see these movies through, we wouldn't be watching them.
That was literally the reason that we're watching.
That is why
to see if it gets
so
more
disappointing.
gay.
Two is a low count.
Disappointing.
But going on to gratuitous female sexual content, in the first movie we had 23 counts. In Too Fast and Furious, only 15. Do you want to talk about that, Noah?
Part of that is, one, less actual close-ups. They're in more places where there are scantily clad women. Mm-hmm. They just don't focus on it. Yeah. Like, the camera never zooms in on one of the background dancers.
It was bad.
What's amazing is they went to a strip club in the middle of the movie. And we only got 1 point from that because we got
two. We added up to 2.
We added 2. Mm-hmm. No. You're thinking of the half point that we awarded at the pool.
Oh, yeah, the pool section. The pool section was worse than the strip club.
Yeah. So, the strip club, none of the female characters were important enough to be on screen in the center. Mm-hmm. The reason that this movie has less female gratuity than the last one is because the girls don't matter and the rules are fake. Like... The whole point of the first movie was, hey, there's a major female character with a connection to our main character. Girl is literally a MacGuffin in this movie. I couldn't tell you her name if I tried. Mm-hmm. She never mattered until the beginning and the end. She isn't really even established as a character. Mm-hmm. No, not gender. No. Girl.
Oh, girl. Yeah.
Girl is a MacGuffin. She is just a plot device that walks around and at one point picked up a shotgun.
The similar role would have been played by Dominic's daughter in the first film, and she was highly sexualized throughout the film. There's probably about 3 of those points from the first film are her, which is surprising because typically a film like this will have a non-discrete character come in, and that's who they'll use for all the gratuitous female scenes.
Yeah, but this just didn't have a female character that was important, and it's one of those things where it's like, oh, it passed the Bechdel test by not having a conversation, by not having all conversations about women be about men. By never having a conversation between 2 women.
Yeah, 2 women never talk. Oh,
wait,
no,
do we mention this same thing?
Gender does talk in the beginning of the film. Gender has her own female crew.
I think we mentioned in an earlier episode that does it pass the Bechdel test if 2 women never speak? I think
definitely
2 women
not.
never speak. Does a woman ever speak to another woman in this movie?
Well, that's the thing. The Bechdel test isn't a perfect metric.
I know.
So we have to stay true to the word of the Bechdel test, which is that 2 women have a conversation about something that's not related to men. And I don't think this counts.
No, of course it doesn't pass.
No, yeah.
I'm just saying, like, now this raises the question, does a woman ever talk to another woman in this movie?
Yes, 100%. That's at the very, very beginning when Gender has her whole female crew, and they go in for the fist pump circle.
Do they say anything to each other?
Yes, there are words shared.
Are you sure?
100%.
Okay. There is one scene in which women talk to women in the movie. It
passes the Bechdel test.
Technically,
this movie is feminist.
Yeah, sure.
We have reached the point. 15 is very low for gratuitous female sexual content. We're progressive now.
Yeah. So, because women just aren't important...
Ignore the sexual harassment.
Yeah, which does still happen in this one.
Mm-hmm. You don't get to 15 without sexual harassment. Let's just say that.
So, this movie is so sexist that it ends up not having as much misogyny in it because the women aren't important. They're viewed as non-entities within this world.
They were more important in the first film. That was definitely more of a
They were characters.
Yeah, they're characters. Yeah. Mm-hmm.
The problem is that both of the we have Gender, who is as important as a Ludacris, who is literally a cameo character who cannot act. Sorry, Lude. And then we have Girl, who is a non-character through the whole movie. So the 2 characters who matter never interact with each other, I don't think, and also are never important to the plot other than being there.
You're not getting your Avengers Endgame girl power fight out moment.
You could have replaced them with a trained monkey. You could have.
So that's why this movie is less gratuitous.
It was so sexist, it was less sexist.
So now going on to the final category of gratuitous advertising. In The Fast and the Furious, it was 2 counts. Mostly the coincidental corona, which we've already talked about. In this film, it was 2 counts as well. But I do happen to believe, on a personal level, I don't have proof for this, that these were most definitely paid for. Because the first one is a car collides with a gigantic Pepsi ad. And there's no way that Pepsi did not pay a little bit to get that on there.
Yeah, it has real Yahoo energy.
And then Sobe, vitamin water shows up on one of the walls.
Yeah, and which is weird. That one's weird.
I'm thinking that it may be a subsidiary of PepsiCo.
Crashing into a Pepsi sign is, incidental, but it's also ignorable. And, there are Pepsi signs in the world. Why does a chop shop...
I'm right. Sobe is run by PepsiCo.
There you go.
That confirms it.
Why is a vitamin water brand spray painted onto the wall of a chop shop?
It's not spray painted. It's a poster.
No, it is spray painted. It's painted. It's not a poster. It's just the logo.
Mm-hmm.
You don't get there's no square around it. There's no border. It's just the logo. That's not a poster.
I remember it being a poster. It was just the logo, but it was just the logo on a poster.
No,
the poster. It was like a flag. It was more a flag, I guess.
No,
I would say.
You're thinking about later in the scene where they look at the rest of the chop shop and see 2 giant banners for actual car things.
Yeah.
This was literally just spray painted onto the wall.
Either way, yeah, but it's still
it was front and center. It was in the camera,
and we just confirmed
it wasn't even addressed.
Mm-hmm. We didn't count. For these gratuitous advertising, we're not counting nondescript car part stuff that could be paid advertising. We don't know, and we just don't have the base knowledge about that. And we're gonna be real. That's not really what we're worried about when it comes to the big budget advertisements in the film. What we're talking about is the stuff that has no right being in the film. Gratuitous advertising means that you're you're inserting an advertisement in some place it does not need to be for the sole purpose of getting money. If you're getting advertising to put car parts in your car movie, that is not gratuitous. That's why we're counting the Sobe graffiti, and that's why we're counting the gigantic Pepsi banner. I am so glad that I called that the Sobe being a subsidiary of Pepsi. That's just hilarious because that confirms it.
I might want to throw a half a point on here, because there was a point in the movie where we were considering, it's like, okay, in the middle of a large dark shot, there is a bright blue Pepsi bottle. Yeah, but its logo is not facing the camera.
They're inside the trailer, and there's a Pepsi bottle not totally facing the camera. Part of it's obscured. There's a box of box of Oreos that is partially obscured. You can tell that it's Oreos, but the name is a little bit blocked. And there's another thing on there too. So there's a couple different.
Kahlua or something.
Yeah, something like that. So there's a couple different brands out there that you can clearly distinguish what it is, but it wasn't gratuitous.
Knowing now that the other 2 counts are PepsiCo. The big Pepsi in the center frame, even if it's not facing camera, I think feels suspicious.
It's suspicious, but I think if we go backwards, we can still agree that that's not suspicious enough to add a gratuitous point.
Is Oreo owned by the same parent company as PepsiCo?
No way.
So, yeah, no, it's not.
No.
I was wrong. So, still.
That's probably a Corona situation.
A big blue thing in the center frame, you can see why I'm suspicious.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But, yeah, they clearly got paid for this one. The first movie, I'm not sure they did get paid.
Don't think so.
For anything.
No. Mm-hmm.
But for this one, I think they did. So, overall, the second movie is less gratuitous. And I think now we get into the point of how did we enjoy it? The effects were sickening. The plot was much better written. It didn't have the one actor that we wanted to see. And it's maybe this is weird to say, but now that it's less gratuitous, it isn't as fun to watch.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
This movie is boring.
Mm-hmm. Nuts. I think we can better frame our discussion and analysis and final wrap of this film by perhaps comparing it and contrasting it to a different Cars sequel.
I apologize once again for interrupting your regularly scheduled programming, but this next segment is a little rough. We talk about some very serious topics, and if any of these make you uncomfortable, feel free to skip it. this second half of this episode will not be relevant to a future discussion. So if you are okay with that, feel free to press onward. But if you're not, that's fine. We have plenty of other episodes for you to watch or listen to. And we will have even more in the future. Looking ahead, there's a content warning for racism, ableism, disability, deformity, genocide, anti-Semitism, Nazi ideology, and racial cleansing. If any of these are too much for you, then please skip this episode. We here at Podchassis are of the opinion that no matter how good the goofs, gaffs, and banter, it just isn't worth your mental health or your happiness. That all being said, I do hope that those of you who can enjoy it do. And to ensure that,
some movie that happens to be a sequel to a film about cars.
Can't imagine.
I know Happy Feet 2. It's about the environment and cars. They have emissions.
And there's that big fight.
Mm-hmm. I think there's probably a truck in Happy Feet 2.
Happy Feet is about environmentalism. Happy Feet 2 takes place on a tropical island. Remember?
Really?
Yeah, because the people on the island bring those are penguins from
Never saw
that
it.
Bring
I don't
rocks
think I ever saw
to
Happy
people.
Feet. What was the one we watched? That was a sequel to what? Surf's Up.
You're thinking of Surf's Up too, which is a different movie.
Also about climate change.
Nope. No, unless you're counting the volcano.
Their muscles deflect so
that
hard that they destroyed
threw,
carbon emissions.
Tank into.
Mm-hmm.
So, what we actually watched a movie was Cars 2. Now, Cars 2, I think I have a lot to say about, because I have never seen Cars 2 before today.
Really?
But I have seen Cars 1 and 3. I just never watched 2 for some reason.
Mm-hmm. Well, there was a reason.
Well, I didn't know the reason until I decided not to watch
Let's preface before we go into this. Let's ask, when you watched Cars 3, you presumably saw that after Cars 1, right?
Yes.
Were you lost at all?
No.
Even a little bit?
Mm-mm.
Even a
because it
tiny
didn't
little
matter.
Bit? This movie is inconsequential to the max.
Yeah, no.
Mm-hmm.
Literally, it, I think, serves to set up a couple of shorts.
It might as well be a Mater solo film.
Yeah, in fact, Lightning McQueen is honestly... Speaking of movies where the least interesting character is somehow the main character
There's so many parallels. Yeah.
Yeah, no. Cars 2 is about Mater.
Match.
If you wanted a movie about Larry the Cable Guy throwing quips, then we have found the movie for you.
Mm-hmm.
Welcome to the Mater film.
If your favorite part of The Fast and the Furious was Paul Walker, you're probably pretty happy to get Too Fast, Too Furious, because Paul Walker is a much major part of the film. But if your favorite part was Larry the Cable Guy in Cars 1, you're probably pretty happy to see Larry the Cable Guy be the main character of Cars 2.
It's nonsense.
Mm.
So, Cars 2, I was aware of before I watched it. Cars 1, I'll be real, follows the plot of the original Thor movie, which is a guy from important place comes to small town, learns how real people live.
Mm.
It's, it ain't broke, don't fix it, Prince and the Pauper nonsense. I've just been made aware that it turns out Cars came first, which is, I think...
By about 5 years. Mm-hmm.
The worst news I've heard all day. Turns out Thor stole from the movie Cars.
Before Disney owned Marvel film production. That was before Disney had owned them.
I think that gives me a moral headache.
Yeah,
that hurt my soul.
No, Thor Ragnarok is the only good Thor movie so far. Changed my mind.
No, hold on. I didn't say I didn't like the first Thor movie.
Mm.
I do like it. It's cute. It's Stranger in a Strange Land.
I only like it because of Coulson, and I also everybody has a boy crush on Loki.
Let's
be real. Tom Hiddleston. Okay.
Welcome to the Marvel sideshow.
Marvel sidebar.
Sidebar. I hate how in the Marvel movies they kind of iron down all the quirks of the characters. Thor becomes increasingly savvy to the world around him, which is, I think, the worst part of what they did to his character. It's the, like, Hulk with glasses nonsense that they did.
Yeah,
Banner
Grey
Hulk.
Well, they covered Grey Hulk, which is from the comics.
No, not Grey Hulk. Banner Hulk. When Bruce Banner's brain and Hulk's body are the same thing, and he puts on the glasses.
That is Grey Hulk.
I thought Grey Hulk was a different character.
No, Grey Hulk is Bruce Banner and Hulk coming together. In the comics, when that happens, he turns physically gray. Grey Hulk in the MCU is Grey Hulk, but not gray.
That's stupid.
It is Grey Hulk. That is what Grey Hulk is.
Well, whatever. And the thing that they did to Thor is, the whole point is that he's, like, fun because he gets things wrong. He's Mater. He is Mater.
Thor is Mater.
Thor is Mater and McQueen in one. He's got all the pompousness and all the stupid, and those balance out to make a pretty fun character, actually. Splitting them into two makes it insufferable. So, thanks.
Does that make Lightning McQueen Natalie Portman?
No, Lightning McQueen...
No, Lightning McQueen is Thor.
No, ironically, I think they switch... No. Lightning McQueen's pompousness and Mater's stupid end up as Thor, as one character.
Oh, okay. Got you.
And
combined.
The girl car becomes Natalie Portman.
Sally is Natalie Portman because female character.
So Thor, I think, actually improved on the formula that Cars 1 set out. And I hate that sentence now that it has exited my mouth.
Does it, though? I think friendship is a stronger message than me
Cars 1 isn't about friendship.
Me space god want bone Natalie Portman.
Cars 1 isn't about friendship, though.
It is.
It's about win race. And be humble.
Yeah, it is about be humble. Cars 2 is more about friendship.
It tries to be.
It tries its best.
Cars 3, I heard best described by a better podcast person as inspiring a Logan's Run style kill everyone over 30 law, because it came from a period of Hollywood where nobody in Hollywood knew how to write about anything other than being old and mad about it. Because Cars 3 is about being old and terrible and garbage because you're old.
Well, so
and how that feels bad.
That's just Owen Wilson in modern day.
Yeah, well, that's why they made the movies, because also the people running the show are also now old.
If you haven't seen it, you need to look at the talk show bit of Owen Wilson, where he talks about how his children don't believe that he's Lightning McQueen. It is the worst thing ever. Owen Wilson is the opposite of down to earth. And it's really funny to see him try
He sure is Lightning McQueen.
Yeah, he sure is Lightning McQueen in real life, 100%.
His children may not believe he voiced Lightning McQueen, but he is Lightning McQueen.
Yeah. I can't believe that his children don't believe that he's Lightning McQueen. Ka-chow.
So, my experience with the other two car movies is bad. And the only thing I was told about Cars 2 was, oh, that's the eugenics one. That's the only information I had walking into this. It's the eugenics one.
Do you want to define eugenics real quick?
Eugenics was a school of thought used by Hitler to describe how some people are born inferior and how they should be removed from the gene pool by killing them, castrating them, or unallowing them to breed. Cars 2 presents the idea that when the car people of the universe are fabricated, some are made poorly. These are known as lemon cars.
And the lemon cars, they form their own coalition. And
so these
it's more like it's honestly more so because also we also have to mention that by accident really is how this happens. By accident, they establish that different brands of cars appear and come from different places, like how like Flynn McMissile is a Queen Vic, which is a very British
and he's
car.
a British brand.
Yeah, exactly. So there's a tie between nationality and car manufacturing.
And the Ferrari is in Italy, and all of the cars in Japan are Japanese cars.
Which makes the plot of Cars 2 a race war.
Yeah, it does. So,
by definition,
I'm going to ignore Lightning McQueen and Mater. And I'm going to tell you what happened in the world of it, and then tell you how these two goons have been somehow strung across it. in the movie, the lemons have been born wrong, effectively. They've been poorly constructed, poorly designed. The whole point is that they break down all the time, and tow trucks like Mater end up using them as their bread and butter. They are a disadvantaged group of society.
Mm-hmm.
And as such,
disenfranchised.
This group of people, this group of cars, I'm gonna avoid saying people just because this is already hard enough. This group of cars, the lemons, who, fun fact, the lemons have their own slurs that people use against them. Yeah. Like hunkers, junkers, jalopies, whatnot. Mm-hmm. They are treated poorly, and their parts...
They're like a terrorist sect.
Well, I'm getting there.
Okay.
They're treated poorly, and their parts are no longer being manufactured to help support them. Mm-hmm. And so, later, somehow, this worldwide group of disabled people form a mafia that spans the world, mm-hmm. and they get their hands on the world's last untapped giant oil field in the ocean. They then get their hands on a lemon in a position of power, mm-hmm. who then creates a fake alternative fuel source, which he's going to sabotage to give alternative fuel sources a bad name.
It's a ridiculous,
so that everybody goes back to oil and gives the lemons a bunch of money because they own it.
It's less people going back to oil. It's more destroying all future prospects of alternative oil ever becoming a reality.
Exactly. Mm. And
they create the biggest alternative oil and only to intentionally sabotage it.
And so
to secure profit.
They already own it. If they hadn't created alternative oil, unless somebody else was going to make it, which they never established.
The reason
the one
why
dude who made it is the lemon.
The reason to create what was the name of the alternative oil? Do you remember what it was called?
All in all.
All in all. The reason to create all in all is to prevent other people from seeking out alternative oil, to show alternative oil, because what they do is they find this gigantic oil mass, and the thing about finding a gigantic reservoir of oil is that it's not you're going to drain it and now you have it and you can sell that for a big profit and make the change immediately. When you find a new mass of oil, that's going to be something that you're going to be harvesting for the next decades, you know? Mm-hmm. And so if alternative oil seems to be something that society is going in the direction of going towards, then that will bite into your profits in the near future, as people start turning away from alternative oil. So that's why they fabricate their own. Oh my gosh, I just invented this new alternative oil and it's amazing and everybody's buying into it. But it's actually just regular gasoline because the technology isn't there yet, to deter people, because the idea is to have this alternative oil company blow out like on the big stage, so that way nobody will ever try to pursue alternative oil. That way they are secured with their investment.
So they set out this huge stage to put it on, mm-hmm. which is a massive globe-trotting race. Mm-hmm. And
which existed before All in All, but yeah.
Yeah, but All in All was sponsoring this one. Mm-hmm. And the insistence was everyone who raced in it used All in All.
Yeah.
But All in All was trapped. Effectively, it was normal gasoline that if you fired... what was it?
It was electromagnetic beam.
Yeah, if you fired an electromagnet...
There's our other comparison here between the films. Is the EMP Trident and the electromagnetic camera from Cars 2. There are a lot of terrifying similarities.
I hate this. So,
we just watched the same movie twice.
If you fire...
One of them had Larry the Cable Guy.
If you fire the beam... he literally calls it a death ray. Mm-hmm. If you fire the beam at somebody... With All in All in their tank, they burst into flames. Mm-hmm.
No, they die. They die.
No. If you turn it high enough. But they never do that in the race. They do kill a guy, though, on screen. It's really weird.
They kill a lot of people die in this movie.
Yeah. But that guy died on screen. Not implied, not an explosion happened and he was in that room. No. Yeah. This guy, straight up is confirmed dead. it's weirdly dark as a movie.
They try to kill Lightning with it, but it doesn't work.
Yeah, no, murder, kill. Like, they use the word death.
Mm-hmm.
And
very violent.
They are trying to, like, over the course of these races, they're kind of trying to destroy the reputation of All in All by, over the course of each race, getting rid of some of the competitors by, exploding their engines with All in All. And effectively losing the sort of trust that the ordinary people have in this alternative non-oil based fuel source. So, to bring it all the way back, this world presents people who are born inferior, who are effectively disabled, who have formed a secret worldwide world order, mafia type thing. They're criminals and murderers who have set up a conspiracy to ruin the world's possible future energy sources in order to chase profit and control.
And let's skip straight from that setup to the conclusion of the film, where only the head leader is arrested. That band of the Lemon Gang has not been disbanded.
Nope.
And B, the social class of the Lemon Group gets unaddressed. Yeah.
In fact, no, they're worse off now.
They're worse off now. Yeah, for sure. Because now it's been publicized that they attempted... the Queen had a bomb right next to her.
Yeah, so in her face.
Any lemon in Europe...
In the world.
In the world, specifically in Great Britain, just because there was a bomb next to the Queen because of their plot... socially ostracized. Gone.
So now we have implicated every single person... every single disabled person in the world as a possible co-conspirator in grand conspiracy.
Yeah.
And I would like to illustrate, this is, I'm not joking here, that is literally paranoid eugenics.
Yeah.
That is, like, on par with, like, the weird, like, New World Order anti-Semitism nonsense.
Yeah, exactly. I was just about to bring that up. Like, this is very reminiscent of modern rhetoric, about modern anti-Semitic rhetoric. You could replace the Lemon class here with what many would perceive as a Jewish ruling party who has the control.
All the money.
Yeah, all the money. They control, we have all the oil fields and we're here to get our nasty little grubby figure. Yeah, it's terrible. It's terrible.
So they've, like, somehow combined three things. They have weird anti-Semitism, weird ableism, and a race war in one thing.
Yeah.
And it's all eugenics.
Yes.
They've somehow managed to make all eugenics into the plot of this movie. Like, hyper eugenics.
Yes. So that is the world setting of Cars 2. Do you want to talk about briefly the Mater Lightning McQueen heart?
So that race that I mentioned that All in All is being used at, Lightning McQueen got called out on TV as being a big stupid idiot by another race car who said, "I'm faster than you." Yes, in accent.
Oh, it's so... speaking of race, one second before we go into that, we should talk about how racist this movie is.
So, yeah, the race takes place around the world, which means we look around the world. And every time we go somewhere in the world, it is not fun. All, like half of the scenes in Japan are really, really weird. Like, you get to see Tomater dressed in kabuki theater outfits. And you get to see a car go to a tire vending machine.
Presumably used.
Which is heinous.
I think that is hilarious.
It's
racist and awful, but it is funny.
I know.
That's one of those Pixar, like, parent jokes in there that even half the parents wouldn't get.
Yeah, no. Like,
the implications of this are amazing.
Then, when they go to France...
They should have had one of the guys sniff the tire.
Okay, the Asia one is just bad. The Asia one is so
the one
bad.
in Japan, the part in Japan is terrible. It's awful.
It's so bad. The one in France isn't even good.
No.
Because,
Italy.
No, France first.
Oh, okay.
The one in France isn't even good because one of the major things they show is somebody painting a picture of two happy people, and then it cuts to them and it shows that they are beat down, broken, and ugly. So thank you for insinuating that French people are ugly. Great. Also, this is where we need to find a specific contact for the spy agency to, crack down on the New World Order. And they enter a flea market that is filled to the brim with Lemon's hawking wares, and it is not good. I don't even want to talk about it. Yeah. But it's not good. Then they get to Italy.
You could make this sort of like Lemon to
it's homeless, disabled.
Yeah.
Veteran, maybe, I don't know.
Yeah.
It's not great.
Yeah, it's a class thing. It's definitely a class
It's also
thing.
like a physical, they're like physically disfigured.
Yeah. Yeah. They have one scene where they show a car with eyes in the headlights.
And you get to see Tomato go, ah!
Yeah.
And it's not great.
No.
So, not awesome.
They did not think through at all
what the human
consequences of
is,
the world of their decisions for this story.
It's not good.
So I think when you think to yourself right now, why in the world did they put these obviously terrifying real world issues into this film? Well, the reason why becomes very clear towards the end, because every Pixar film, they pride themselves on being well written in the way that the outworld story and the inworld story are allegorical of each other, right? They are connected. So in Cars 2, the way that they connect these is that Mater is struggling with his friend, with Lightning McQueen's shame of Mater's behavior. And it's sort of like an acceptance story, and they have the same sort of issue with the main villain of the film, who also has this sort of shame. He pretends that he's an electric car, and whenever he leaks oil on the stage, he pretends that it's Mater who's doing that. So that's those sort of Pixar-esque story loop around. So that's why they came up with this story where Lightning McQueen is
bad.
They came up with this story where Lightning McQueen is ashamed of Mater, because that's actually a pretty obvious and sound conclusion to come to for the first movie, is that now Lightning McQueen would be embarrassed of the Cars 1 is Lightning McQueen going from high society to low society. But now Lightning McQueen is going back to high society. So it would make sense to do the whole I'm ashamed of my new friends thing. That makes sense. But the way that they decided to contextualize this double parallel narrative ends up creating a eugenics race war.
And worse, it's like in universe, because the lemons are evil, the eugenics is right.
Yeah, exactly.
That's the problem here, is that
it is
they set up a scenario
in
which that is the correct
answer. So I've described to you why this happened, but now you can see how clearly this is an issue.
Now, Lightning McQueen is sitting in Radiator Springs visiting his friends when he sees on TV he's being called out for being a loser, and he's not fast. Tomater gets on the phone and calls the TV station and says, "My friend's super fast," and proceeds to embarrass himself on air. And then Lightning McQueen says, "Well, you know what? I'm gonna go ahead and do the race." And at the first race, Tomater ends up getting mistaken for an American spy trying to stop the World Coalition, and then gets dragged away into a combat thing because he's dumb. And
we're getting into the structural elements of the film, and the structural elements are that this whole movie is really a 007 homage.
Yeah, and that Lightning McQueen is honestly incidental to it.
Yeah, he is very tertiary to the film, 100%. So the structural elements are that 007 homage, where Mater is this accidental spy, and that's where we're seeing that fake sense of worth. People thinking he's a spy, and he's like, "Oh yeah, that's cool. People think I'm a spy. Yeah, that's cool." But he doesn't know. He's proud of being himself, and that's where that sort of ending comes in. But the thing is,
before we get to the ending,
yeah.
So Tomater, British spies who are trying to track down everything end up mistaking Tow Mater for the American spy. After the American spy gets captured, he's the guy who gets murdered on screen. Tow Mater
horrifically
ends up convincing them somehow that through his stupid act and immense rust, that he must be a very, very high quality spy.
Yeah, secret genius.
That he's just really good at pretending to be stupid. Then we cut to Lightning McQueen, who is starting his first race, and Tow Mater's telling him the play-by-play, and then he gets dragged away in order to go meet with his rendezvous, which he thinks is a date, and ends up like seeing a bunch of stuff, but he's still got the headset talking to McQueen on, which means McQueen is distracted by a bunch of nonsense information and ends up losing the race. He comes back and they have a big falling out, and he's like, I don't want your help.
Maybe you should just go home. This is why I don't bring you to races.
Yeah, you're embarrassing me here, man. So between Mater being embarrassing at the show and whatnot, and this, he's very ashamed of Mater and tells him, and Mater leaves a message saying he's going to go home. Mater goes to an airport and gets dragged into more spy stuff and gets dragged off in a spy plane after getting chased in a gunfight. Yeah, this movie has guns.
Yeah,
lots on top of explosions.
Yeah.
Like real guns, like assault rifles, Gatling guns, like real ones. Real ones. It's not like comedy.
Which just pairs so great in the in this sommelier deduction of race war and real firearms.
Yeah,
tastes like 2011.
Delicious. So then we get into the sort of second act of the movie, wherein Lightning McQueen is at his second race, and in the meantime, Mater has gone off to become a super spy, because the British people think that he's just an incredibly high-quality American spy who's just keeping super deep cover.
By accident, he's being a great spy.
Well, no.
Most of the time,
because he's
accident.
A good repairman.
That comes in later in the second act.
No, that comes up in the plane.
That comes in the plane, but I'm talking about before the plane. The sequences with the action and everything, on accident, he does a good job.
Yes, on accident in the first act, he ends up doing a good job. In the second act, though, when it's really him doing it of his own volition, he is a excellent repairman and ends up like identifying a lot of things.
He's got idiot savant knowledge about
cars. And then later on, he ends up doing some things of his own volition, and because of the way he's acting, he's accidentally tripping into the correct ways to be behaving, even though he has no idea what he's doing. So
a lot of his language happens to trigger different super spy skills
that have been embedded into his body.
Yeah, exactly.
Meanwhile, Lightning McQueen found his note that saying he would leave, and Lightning McQueen gets sad about it because he heard from an Italian man that friendship is important. And by the way, Italy is the only place here not represented poorly, which is very confusing, considering this was an American production and has nothing to do with Italy.
Yeah. Well, the Francesco is pretty racist depiction.
Yeah, but the old Italian man and like the old Italian woman who feeds him, like these are positive stereotypes.
Yeah.
The other ones are not.
No. We should also talk about the stereotypes of women in this film.
Ooh.
Sally being the just worst one.
Yeah. So Sally, Lightning McQueen's girlfriend, apparently part of the reason he joined all this is because she has a crush on the fast guy who made fun of him on TV, Francesco. And
she objectifies Francesco.
Yes, she finds his exposed wheel wells to be very attractive.
She expresses this when she's in an open she's in a
obvious relationship.
Yeah, with Lightning McQueen. Yeah,
and
not a very great role model.
Then we have the other girl of the franchise, or the other girl of the movie, who is an assistant to the British spy, who ends up sort of being what do you call it in military terms? Drafted. She ends up getting drafted into the situation by the British spy into becoming a spy, even though she's really just the tech person, which is a pretty standard 007 trope. Then we have the second act of the movie ends with them learning about the the plan of the all-in-all thing. And the third act takes place with, starts with all of the spies getting captured, even Tomater.
Inside of Big Ben.
Inside of Big Ben, which they call some car pun, and it doesn't matter.
It's stupid. Yeah.
And Tomater ends up fighting his way out of the ropes through some idiot savantness, and goes off to save Lightning McQueen, who it turns out the death beam didn't work on for some reason. And then Tomater goes to help him. Turns out they knew that Tomater would do this, so their backup plan, which they told Tomater was to put a bomb in the pit when he next goes in for a pit stop, was to put a bomb into Tomater.
Mm.
And Tomater and Lightning McQueen then have the world's dumbest pro-friendship talk while moving at Mach 1 through the streets, and while he's trying to say, like, I'll blow you up, but you'll get hurt if you get close. I know, I'm sorry, like, whatever, it's terrible.
Yeah. Mm. He has a hunch, and he follows that hunch until the bitter end, which could kill all of them, yeah.
And this bomb is activated by button press.
No,
by
voice activation.
No. Remember, he has the wheel over the button?
Mm.
Until it gets out of range?
Yeah. Mm.
And then the villain gets captured, and they're like, alright, now deactivate it. Are you kidding me? It's voice activated. Alright, deactivate. And this starts a countdown? Which is stupid, that it wouldn't have a countdown in the first place, and instead would be a remote activated bomb that then has a backup countdown. So they had their cake and ate it too, I guess.
Mm-hmm.
But it turns out nobody there is the person who has the voice to deactivate it. They need to find the right person with the right voice. And Mater goes through a series of hunches and super spy nonsense, which Lightning McQueen goes along with because he's trying to be a good friend, even though Mater has grown jet engines. And then he almost threatens the Queen, threatens the guy who made All in All on a hunch, and gets him to deactivate the bomb by standing right in his face when it was about to blow up. That is the plot of Cars 2.
Mm.
Also, at the end, Mater gets knighted.
Yeah,
by the Queen.
Yeah.
Because this is in England, in the third race.
Here's the thing about the ending of the film, is that Mater could not have successfully provided his role as the protagonist if he was not a secret genius.
Yeah.
So him representing this entire disenfranchised group fails. Because they are characterized by their disability. And this movie is saying that even if you have a disability, if you happen to be a secret genius, it's okay.
Like, what ends up happening is he says, I'm rusty too, I get it. Here's the thing, Mater. No, you don't. These people can't drive more than a couple miles without breaking down.
Mm-hmm.
They are utterly crippled. And Mater is not. He does not get it. And his attempt to appeal to pathos ends up being, getting a bunch of money and power isn't gonna make you happy. And their response is pretty apt, actually. No, but it's worth a try. And then they shoot at him.
So this film's answer to this gigantic eugenics issue is kind of similar to the way that we answer it in real life, which stinks, which is just put a couple people in jail. You know? That does not fix the enormous social class issues that's going on in this world.
It makes it worse.
Yeah, it makes it worse. Yeah, for sure.
The solution that Cars made, that Cars decided on in its fantasy world, is that eugenics is right, actually, and that you should, and that the lemons shouldn't exist.
Mm-hmm.
That is the real answer of the Cars 2 movie, which is bad.
It's very bad. So let's move on to a couple closing thoughts about Cars 2. The first one being the visuals. This movie it's stunning. It's a picture film. It looks beautiful. I don't think there was a single scene where I thought, ooh, didn't look great. I think the beginning of the film is super well choreographed because that is the most pure 007 homage thing that we ever get. It's very well thought out from a conceptual animation standpoint.
But the entire film is just, it looks great. Pixar does not cheap out on their animation. It is well produced. What do you think about the animation?
Oh yeah, no, that movie is beautiful.
Yeah,
like honestly, it looks much better than Cars 1 ever did, and Cars 3 has a lot more shine on it. Like just because it's better, it's like produced later in the world.
They've updated their engine.
Yeah, they updated the engine. But Cars 3 lacks, I think, the artistry that Cars 2 does. In that Cars 2 is genuinely well shot. And its shots are interesting. Like, it pulls off super spy nonsense in a very convincing, interesting way.
For sure. Like,
this movie is very
well built.
There's
some really great shots. Like, one shot I love in particular is when there's that spiral driveway. And it's like a giant, like a top down, and you can see the barrels slowly going towards the bottom. Yeah, it's great. It looks amazing.
I would recommend to the audience, watch the first 15 minutes of this movie, and then turn it off. Because
it's more
that's
like,
all.
Honestly, it's like 10 minutes. Yeah, but yeah.
Maybe 5 minutes.
It was 6.5.
When you see Lightning McQueen, stop watching.
Yeah, exactly.
So, the super spy nonsense at the beginning is honestly really well built. It's a shockingly well shot, well conceived visually movie.
Yes.
And its stunts are surprisingly heart pumping.
But with that being said, I think in terms of world building for a Pixar franchise, this is the weakest Pixar franchise.
Oh, it's the worst.
It's the worst. Just talking cars, you put a face on anything. There's no real world logic to it. Like Toy Story has very well defined world logic to the way that toys interact with the human world. You know, this is just. This might as well be a series of Family Guy episodes that are spread across like one season to another. You know,
yeah.
It's that sort of level of thought.
This is
effort put into it.
I think this movie is 4 things: visually stunning, and world building wise terrible. The 2 remaining factors are audio and script. I'll be the first to admit that, with the exception of a single cover song that gets included in that movie, which I actually loathe.
It's very bad.
The rest of the original soundtrack is pretty stunning.
Yeah.
Like, it all sounds good, especially the action sequences are pretty impressive.
It's no Ratatouille.
No.
But they have musical themes that match different characters.
And it works.
And those themes are stretched and interesting in different ways as scenarios change. It's dynamic, but it still has reoccurring musical sequences. And it's really strong.
And the last bit is the story. The script of this movie is not weak, actually. It has its moments. There's a lot too much tomater
the jokes. I was going to bring up the humor. That was one of my last points, yeah.
To be completely real...
3 of them worked, though.
3 of them? Out of a movie?
Yeah.
Which is filled with, I think,
the thing,
2 dozen of them?
There are a total... in the entire movie, there are 2 jokes in the entire movie. But... there are 100 variations on that first joke. Yes. And there are 50 variations on that second joke. But it's only ever 2 jokes in the entire film.
And 3 of them land.
At least in the first one, you had, it was more of a variety show sort of humor.
Yeah, because you had all the other characters in Radiator Springs.
Exactly. But the Radiator Springs gang were not characters in this movie.
They were, they literally could have been replaced with a single person.
This movie has this sort of issue, how it plagues other sequels, where you take these main characters and you pull them out, and then you have the other people be side characters, and because they're side characters, they have to perform a specific role in the film, which makes them all a-holes. That's the thing. It's side character a-hole syndrome, and that's what a lot of the Radiator Springs cast has in this film. The last thing I wanted to bring up was an issue I specifically had with this film upon rewatch, because I've actually seen this film many times, and that is that the animation is great in the film. The racing, the choreographed racing is so boring. It sucks. It's terrible.
Yeah, no,
I called it plot racing. People went forward and backwards in positions of the race as necessary for plot, and that was it. The racing was not stimulating in any way, shape, or form.
It literally didn't. The only things that mattered is that...
It could have mattered. It could have mattered. It could have been cool. We could have gotten some really interesting racing. We could have seen Lightning struggled. He didn't struggle. Him and Francesca were just at the front of the pack because it was easier just to make them the front of the pack and not have any challenge to it.
The other races
sucked.
didn't matter.
It was so bad, which it stands in such a comparison to the first film, where the racing was amazing. And the only reason why I can explain why it's so bad in 2 is just because they were just focusing on the spy stuff. This is straight up not a racing movie. They did not care.
It's not about McQueen.
This is not a Cars movie. It's not. It has fundamentally nothing in common with any of the other Cars
This
films.
is the first of the Planes spin-offs.
Yeah, it is. Mm-hmm.
That's literally all that this is.
Yeah.
This is an extended version of those Tomater Spy shorts that they made to justify making those.
Yeah.
And it, like, okay, I'll be real. The spy movie aspect is okay.
Yeah.
It's
especially
serviceable.
Yeah.
I'll take it. The story of it is fine. The problem is, and despite the good music, good visuals, a serviceable plot, even if it was unrelated, at the end of, like, I found myself saying multiple times through this movie, why don't I care? Why do I hate every minute of this? Not even like in a morally reprehensible way. It's just not fun to watch. For whatever reason, and I honestly can't pinpoint, maybe you can, I don't know why I hate it.
Yeah, I think my reason to hate it, because really at the center of it, I hate it for a couple different reasons. The biggest reason I hate it is because when it comes to making children's films, message is ridiculously important. And this movie is not borderline irresponsible. It has an irresponsible message.
Morally reprehensible.
That is the core of my hatred for this movie. The other part that I hate about this movie when it comes to structure and the reasons why a lot of people will tell you they hate it, when it comes to why the big question is, why is this movie 90% a James Bond homage? And my best explanation for it, a very good homage, something that you'll see in a great episode of Community, a very good homage takes so much effort to distill the core of that concept and to have an interesting spin on it and to say something about that core subject matter. A mediocre to bad homage takes little to no effort. It is an exponential curve of quality and effort for an homage. But when you get to that middle/low tier homage, the effort goes down to almost non-existent because you can just copy paste.
Yep.
That's what we got. The reason why, the big burning question, why in the world did they make Cars 2 a spy movie? Because it takes no effort to make it a spy movie. It takes no effort to come up. You know, it does take effort is to continue this racing story and to have an interesting thing to say about that.
Yep.
But you know what takes to take your allegory and to weave it into something that already matches the pre-existing universe. You know what takes no effort? An easy, cheap 007 homage. You know what you can do with a 007 homage to your children's film? Product line.
Honestly, I think the thing I hated most is it was predictable. I've seen all this before.
Yeah.
I've seen the
Cheap
Larry the
homages
Cable
a dime
Guy
a
jokes.
dozen.
I've seen the Larry the Cable Guy jokes. I've seen I've seen a singular 007 movie, which this is not any better than seeing a singular 007 movie's worth of stuff, which has been chopped up, thrown into a blender with Cars 1 and Planes. Like, this movie is not a Cars movie that they made a 007 knockoff. This is a 007 knockoff that they threw into the Cars universe.
Yes,
and on top of that, included the worst world building that company has produced to date.
Mostly by accident. A lot of it by racial ignorance.
At this point, can we say it's an accident when it's this bad?
This is the worst that it's gotten. And I don't think it gets any worse than Cars 2.
I don't think I've ever seen any movie be as ludicrously irresponsible as Cars 2.
Yeah. It's terrible.
Like, it's honestly terrible. It's boring, it's not entertaining, and it's morally reprehensible.
Morally yeah, 100% agree. So,
welcome to our next segment. Cringe or nah?
Cringe or nah. Okay. Noah, since you seem to have spelled out your feelings, why don't you start us off with Fast and Furious, Too Fast, Too Furious. Cringe or nah?
So, Fast and Furious 1, we called nah. because it wanted to be something and it set out to be it.
And we had our own lens on it, right? And we found enjoyment through that lens.
Like the Fast and the Furious tries to be the Fast and the Furious, and it succeeds to a mediocre level. The problem is Too Fast, Too Furious is trying to be a different movie and failing. The script is better, don't get me wrong, but the execution of that script is middling at best. And to be honest,
casting is worse.
The casting is worse. The effects are worse. The races are worse. Like, this movie is just not nearly as fun to watch. And that's not just for a lack of Vin Diesel's pecs. I'm gonna say Too Fast, Too Furious is cringe.
Okay. My feelings on this, when we first finished watching the film, I was sticking up for Too Fast, Too Furious. Honestly, that one scene with the villain really added stakes to me, and it almost brought this movie up to the level where I would call it a real movie. And but the thing is, throughout the course of our conversation, I knew that the ending to this movie sucked, but through the course of this conversation, I realized to myself how deeply it sucks. I think it almost completely undoes all the goodwill from that great scene of the villain in there. There is a solid script here, but the execution is so terrible, and the written ending for the movie is also bad. I will say, the written ending for the first film, if you look at it from a homoerotic standpoint, is very bad.
Yes.
If you are looking for the homoerotic lens, it's awesome. They both have very terrible endings. I think after reconsideration, before I probably would have given it a nah. Honestly, I would have. I think that I was gonna say that this is the better film of the two, but honestly, no. It lacks that there's very critical points in this film where it had the chance to succeed, but it failed, and because it failed at all those critical points, it lacks an identity. And that is the worst thing that a film can lack. So I would say, because it lacks an identity, because it fails to succeed in any metric way that makes it stand out from other films, it is cringe.
And before we move on, I would like to expound on that scene. So I mentioned in episode 1, The Fast and the Furious felt like a could be pretty decent movie that somebody chopped up and threw in the wrong order. Like, that it should have been edited far differently, and it could have been decent. The Fast and the Furious crawled, but it got to the end zone. It worked.
Yeah.
Too Fast, Too Furious is 3 scenes from a good movie, and the rest of it is awful, unreadable garbage.
Yeah.
And it is a movie that tried to run, got 2 steps, and then proceeded to break every bone in both of its legs. It did not reach the finish line. It failed to be what it set out to do because it was far too ambitious and ended up shooting itself in the foot.
Agreed.
I think it's got better scenes. It's got some better production value. It's a worse movie.
Yeah, for sure. Agreed.
Now, moving on to Cars 2.
So, you started off with Too Fast, Too Furious, so I'll start off with Cars 2. It is definitely cringe. I am a big fan of children's movies, and I think that this movie is very well produced. There's so much effort and love put into the visuals of this film. It is a tragedy of animation. I think, don't get me wrong, I'm gonna check and see if Cars 2 was nominated. So the Oscars have a very terrible taste in animated films, and they often give nominations to just whatever Disney puts out, and they skipped on this film. They skipped on giving the nomination to this film, and good on them. It is a irresponsible film. It has been forgotten for the most part. A lot of people forgetting it for the wrong reason. And the right reason being, it is just an irresponsible story to tell children. And I am so glad that there are the other reasons to this film that make it get thrown down the gutter. The bad parts about it with the Mater Lightning McQueen story, I find very similar. You most likely have not seen Ralph Breaks the Internet.
No.
But a lot of the same complaints is that like Ralph gets because this is another film. The easiest thing to do is just to take Ralph, remove anything that made Ralph Ralph, and make him this mean butthole character, the a-hole character. So that way we have conflict, and it's very very similar in that way.
Oh,
and
man.
It's just a bad film. But at least it's not as irresponsible as Cars 2 is. Children, they pick up on this stuff.
Yeah.
Right? They realize that there is a difference between the lemon cars of the film and the main cast of characters.
You're basically teaching children that it's okay and in fact encouraged to see people with deformity or physical disability and treat them as wrong and evil.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, so I'm assuming you're going to say Cringe as well. Is there anything you'd like to add on to that?
So this movie, not even from a moral standpoint, it's just trash.
Mm-hmm.
It's the lowest of garbage. Like, it is, I think, the first movie we've watched that's bad enough that I wish I could give it a lower than Cringe ranking.
Mm-hmm.
We don't have a ranking that's lower than Cringe.
Yeah.
Just, I would like to place on record, if we had something below Cringe, I'd give it that. This thing this is a movie that deserves to be burned from time immemorial.
Mm.
It's really unbelievably awful.
I'm glad you said that, because my other question would be, since we're giving both of these movies a Cringe rating, which one would you put lower? And I definitely agree there.
Yeah,
Cars 2 is lower.
Trash.
Too Fast, Too Furious is actually an ambitious film.
It
trying
just
to
fails.
turn this like anthology sort of series. Yeah, it just fails. But Cars 2 is a reprehensible garbage film.
Yeah, it's rotten to its core.
Mm-hmm.
Like down to its bones. It has carved racism and sexism and anti-Semitism down as scrimshaw into its skeleton. It is awful.
For sure. Are there any closing remarks for this episode of Podchassis?
Yeah, this was a surprisingly negative.
It was negative and dour. I was trying to bring the energy up, but man, I had a lot of energy going into the beginning of this episode.
Yeah.
I died. A little part of me has passed away.
Normally we try and pair a funny set of movies together that would be hilarious to compare to each other. Mm-hmm. These movies have a lot in common.
Ridiculous
and
amount
both
in common.
Either horrifically made or horrifically conceived. In fact, that's the thing. One of them is well conceived, poorly made. The other is horrifically conceived, well made.
Yeah, exactly.
They are mirrors of each other.
They are.
We did not anticipate to give such a good narrative parallel here. That's not how our podcast
I conceived
works.
it because I'm an idiot savant secret genius.
Yes, Mater. I'm the McQueen out of the two of us, apparently.
Yes.
I'm voiced by Owen Wilson, and my nose is crooked. Ka-chow. So, yeah, like, our show doesn't normally work like this. We don't normally have serious takes about actually reprehensible films.
Yeah.
We thought this would be a funny thing to pair with each other.
I don't remember being this racist.
I knew it was the eugenics one, but I thought that was like subtext.
Mm-hmm.
No, it's the text. That's the full text.
Yes.
Written verbatim.
Mm-hmm.
I would like to formally apologize for this episode.
This is Peabody and Sherman spending an entire film in the middle of the French Revolution.
As recompense, next episode will be Funky Mode.
Funky Mode!
So,
woo!
It's gonna get stupid.
Funky.
Actually, now that I think about it, episode 3 is also Funky Mode.
Yeah.
So we're sandwiching. We got a bad sandwich with two pieces of good funky bread.
It's a dookie sandwich.
We got a dookie sandwich.
Yeah.
So sorry. If you want to listen to the next episode to clear your palate, we encourage it.
Yeah. It'll be out in the future. We're living in the future, the distant future, the year 2011.
Yeah, totally. So I've been Noah.
I've been Lorenzo.
And this has been Podchassis.
Just remember, do not eat the pistachio ice cream. It has turned.
And normally we would say next time in a joke thing, but I know we're doing next time. So see you next time on Funky Mode.
Podchassis is a free product produced using royalty-free, Creative Commons, or fair use content. If you would like to contact us for questions, comments, or concerns, please contact us at podcomments@gmail.com. That's POD comments@gmail.com. As always, Podchassis is a labor of love, a love I'm certain that we share with you, the listener.